What's up, everyone? Welcome to GameFace, episode 324 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. I'm Shane Satterfield, and this is the last normal episode of GameFace for 2022. And alongside me to do that is Matt Kyle. How are you, Matt?
All right.
Fresh off E3-2 at the Game Awards?
Oh, give me a break.
I should also add that we have a sponsor for today's show. Our good friends at LS Cream have sponsored GameFace for the next several episodes, and will be sponsoring our Game of the Year Awards on Friday, which is, I know, news to you guys. You thought maybe we're doing our Game of the Year Awards today, but we're not. We're going to do a normal episode of GameFace, our last one for the year, and then on Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, right here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames, we will be doing our Game of the Year Awards live. And LS Cream will be sponsoring that as well. We thank them very much for their generous sponsorship of Sifted's content for December and into early January. So, Matt, you don't think that the Game Awards are like E3-2 now?
No.
No?
No, at E3 you learn things.
Yeah? You don't feel like you learned anything?
No, I feel like I saw a bunch of commercials.
Yeah, I mean, they are.
I also learned a little bit about how lax the security is at the Game Awards, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah, we're going to go over everything that happened at the Game Awards 2022. It's probably going to be the vast majority of today's episode because there were a lot of announcements, a lot of big trailers, a lot of games debuted in the midst of all the other stuff that we've kind of hinted at here over the last couple minutes. A couple other things to note. So as I said, this is the last regular episode of GameFace. And then we have our Game of the Year Awards on Friday. And then that's it for our live streaming for the year. However, we will have content flowing through our Patreon, flowing through sifted.net during the break. I still don't have my flights home because the flights are insanely expensive. One way, $500 right now to get to the East Coast. One way.
Ugh.
That's insane. I spent a little more.
That used to be what it cost to get to Tokyo one way.
Well, I spent a little more than that, like a month and a half ago, to go to Greece. Mm-hmm. And I bet you I could probably find tickets to Greece cheaper than I can find them to the East Coast right now. As I've said before,
because they know a lot more people need to go to the East Coast right now.
Yeah, as I've said before, just open the door and give me a parachute, and I'll just jump out right over Pennsylvania, and they can keep going on the way to Europe. But unfortunately, they won't let you do that. So I do not know when I'm leaving yet. I'm trying to get out of here like the 20th or the 19th or something like that. But before I go, we'll have everything set up. We'll have content running through our Patreon, running through sifted.net, so you guys will have stuff to check out. Also, keep your eyes peeled. Over the next day or so, we're going to put a call out for Ask Shane questions, for Ask Shane anything. That's something that I will use to supplement the days where GameFace isn't live over the holiday break. So while we are going on break, and we will be away, we'll be giving you guys content and just kind of keeping you company throughout the holiday break. What are you doing for holidays, Matt?
Usual Christmas stuff.
Yeah. Just going up north to see your family?
Probably.
How long do you think you're going to be away?
No idea.
Yeah. Until you get tired of hanging around with the family. That's usually how it works for me. Last year, I ended up staying on the East Coast for like 3 weeks because I got stuck there. There was like bad weather here on the West Coast, and the flights were like outrageous, or you couldn't get flights at all. Usually about a week in central Pennsylvania, and I'm good. Catch up with all the friends, catch up with all the family, do the Christmas thing, and then after that, I'm just kind of sitting there like, okay, now what? So it reminds me why I left central Pennsylvania, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, for Philadelphia many, many years ago. So anyway, hope you guys all have exciting plans for the holidays, and you're going to be able to also catch up with friends and family and have a great holiday season. But we're still here to cap off 2022 in style. And I guess we might as well just get into it because we have a lot to talk about with the Game Awards 2022. We're gonna tackle this in segments. So first we're going to talk about the show in general. Then we're going to talk about the awards. Then we're going to talk about the reveals. And then Matt and I will deliver an overall letter grade for the Game Awards 2022. So let's talk about the show in general, Matt. As you can see, the lower third there says Bill Clinton. Mm-hmm. And people may be wondering why that would be, Matt. Maybe you would like to provide a synopsis of what happened during the show.
Well, at the very end, when Elden Ring won Game of the Year, the From guys went up to the stage, and with them was this weird-looking kid who, like, didn't seem like he belonged there. Like, it was something, he was kind of lurking. And then they gave their speeches and acceptance, and at the very end, the kid jumps up to the microphone and says, it was something like, I'd like to dedicate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton.
Here he goes, I would like to nominate Bill Clinton.
No, he dedicate this award to my Reformed Orthodox Rabbi Bill Clinton. That was what he said. Which is probably some kind of anti-Semitic dog whistle.
I just thought it was hilarious and so random, but I guess ultimately there's something weird about it. Yeah.
And the kid's been on InfoWars. He's been on a bunch of weird things. He's not your average like kid ran up and did something weird thing. He's been places.
Well, it was weird because the show cut away after From Software had finished its acceptance speech. And it pulled away, and then the kid stepped up and starts talking, and then they cut back. And he got screen time.
It was crazy.
It's so bizarre.
And they arrested him.
Yeah, they arrested him.
As Jeff tweeted.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Yeah. Very bizarre. And I don't think we'll ever see the Game Awards handled in the same way again.
No, I feel like security to be a little tighter. You're going to have to tell people, like, you're going to have to say who's going up for the awards if you win.
Yeah. There's going to be security by the stage now.
Yeah.
Which there hasn't ever been.
Yeah, I mean, you could see security running in at the end there, but they were clearly not at the stage. They were
off the stage, yeah.
No, it wasn't a stunt, Sneaky.
Well, it was a stunt.
The kid was pulling a stunt, but it wasn't planned by the show.
Oh, he thinks it was like, no. It wasn't some kind of thing to drive interest in the show. Let's not go down conspiracy theory avenue here. This is GameFace. I like to think us and our audience are rational here. Let's not go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy.
But they're lucky that like it wasn't.
It could have been worse.
Yeah, lucky he didn't have a gun or a knife.
Because now you wonder, Jeff is gonna have to make changes to the show to make the people feel safe.
Yeah.
That kid,
probably not just giving away tickets this time.
Yeah. First of all, that kid was really smart because you could see him coming down a different aisle from Software, and he merged with them at the exact time that they went up on stage. Like, he was very, very good at getting up there. And I remember, so we curate during the Game Awards, and it is just madness. I mean, we are creating game pages, grabbing screenshots of games to create the game pages, creating box art for each game to create the game page before we can actually add the trailer to the website. It's just madness. So you're multitasking. Like, I'm literally like, I have one window open with the show. I have like 5 other windows open with curation and like Photoshop and all these other programs I'm using. And so I saw the kid standing there and I was like, wow, that kid's awful young to be working with From Software on Elden Ring.
Like, I was like, was he a voice actor? Or
yeah,
something?
And I was like, and so I just said whatever, and I just got head down, kept working, and then when it was over, I just turned the page because I was exhausted. It's like 4 hours of like just constant like just insanity. And so it was over, and I'm like, that's it. I'm going to go sit on the couch and chill. I didn't even know about this kid, until the next day when my wife said, hey, what happened on the Game Awards last night? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, some random kid just walked up on stage and gave an acceptance speech, and then the dots connected. I was like, oh my God, it was that kid. And sure enough, it was that kid. But they're going to have to change everything about the Game Awards now. They have to make sure that the industry feels safe going to the show. Like, dude, he could have stabbed me. He could have done anything up there. So, yeah, that's a crazy way to end the show, to say the least. And we probably should have saved that for the end of the actual show discussion. But let's get into the actual nuts and bolts of the show. As far as the production is concerned, it seems like, first of all, the whole show is thrown into disarray from the very beginning. Because the first award, when the God of War's voice actor won his award, his acceptance speech was like 12 minutes long. Like, they started playing the get your ass off stage music, and he stayed up there for another 5 minutes.
Yeah, because he knows they're not going to do anything to him.
So yeah, they needed the hook from like the Gong Show. Do you remember that show, The Gong Show? They gong you and they pull you off stage with a hook.
That's old vaudeville. Also, I just reminded me seeing the full shot of Jeff there. I guess like giant shoes are the style now. Is that everybody had giant shoes? Everyone was wearing like Kingdom Hearts shoes in this. Like,
oh, really? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, everyone's got giant shoes now.
Well, so it started with that, and then the whole rest. There's actually foreshadowing to Game of the Year. It's funny, if you go back and watch this when it's over, you start to realize that they're hinting at stuff the whole way through. But anyway, after that, his acceptance speech, it screwed the whole show. So the whole rest of the show, Jeff is scrambling, trying to get the show back to time. Every rap, he's like, I hope this next guy doesn't talk too long. It became awkward.
Yeah, and I felt like, To me, it felt like some of the musical performances were abbreviated.
Yep, it seemed like they were cut short.
And like considering that's one of the only things that Jeff would have direct control over the length of, it feels like maybe they cut some of those down to get the time back.
Well, we were talking about this before.
Especially the Diablo one felt like it could have gone longer than that.
Yep. We were talking about this before we went live, but I felt for Jeff because I have been doing this show before and have somebody running the TriCaster. And as the host, I'm sitting there watching things go wrong, but I'm hosting the show. And so it's very hard to try, if you're the leader of the show, to try to get the show back on the rails while you are hosting the show. And so I felt for him at certain points. I was like, oh, this is awful. But he should have found better ways to...
Well, the chat's saying that Bosman said that because he was working on the show, he said that Chris Judge going long wasn't a problem for Jeff because apparently a bunch of the presenters weren't there yet. Running late. So...
I don't believe that. Because Jeff said it the whole episode, the whole rest of the show. We're behind. Hope this guy doesn't talk very long.
I was like, behind what? Your streaming show.
It's not on TV, I know. But he wanted to get it right to time, and he ultimately did get it right to time.
Yeah, hit the 3.5 hour mark.
To time, the 3.5 hour
I mean, he clearly wanted it over to 8.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, it could be contracts that he has with the venue. There's all kinds of stuff involved with that. So, his scramble that existed for the rest of the show, like every time he did intro something, I hope they don't take too long. I hope they keep it brief. I hope they I became uncomfortable.
I wasn't sure if that was actually referencing the time of the show or if he was just that was the only joke he had. Like he was trying to make it a running gag about how long.
Didn't seem like a joke to me, but
I mean, it didn't seem like a joke to me in the sense that that's not how I deliver it if I was trying to deliver a joke, but this is Jeff we're talking about.
He's not a comedian, that's for sure.
He's not.
Eric Cartmanis, they were on LA time, Shane. Xbox had no presence.
Also, if like...
here we go. Here we go with the angry fanboys.
If Judge had just not paused constantly, it would have been about half the time.
You're right. Yeah. Before we get going too much further into this, I do want to thank people who got us Twitch Prime to start the show, because there's a bunch of you guys. And we appreciate it because we are... somebody's getting auto-modded. Sneaky must have typed something. We really rely on it to help us with our revenue, and so I want to thank you guys when you actually do. And where are they? I know I saw them. Oh, here we go. A Lateralis, thank you. Wampler13, thank you for Twitch Prime. Andy T. Monahan, thank you for subscribing. Lazily Digilant. Nexus 6 Batty, thank you. One Super Master Gamer, thank you. Shora F, thank you. Are there any more? I think that's it. Okay, yeah, I think that's it. What do you think about the rest of the show, Matt? Do you think it was a good mix?
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean...
He finally got Animal on stage, as you can see here, something he had been talking about for like 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, he's been building to some Muppet thing for a long time.
He really has. He finally got the payoff. And it was kind of funny.
It was all right.
Seemed like there was more awards announced on the actual show.
I don't think so. Maybe one.
So I kept the log.
They still announced RPG as a fucking list, like with no react. I mean, it was ridiculous.
Again,
ridiculous.
I just felt like the whole rest of the show, he was just, I mean, he was like speed reading like the Micro Machines guy through almost everything.
That's how he always does that, though. Like that's
no. He's a good presenter, man. He could speak slowly and clearly.
No, the awards that are given out just as like a list and then an award winning, like that's always how they read those. That's always how it's been presented.
I don't agree with that, but
I didn't see this speeding through this thing that you seem to have seen here. I thought he was making a lame joke about how long.
Oh, he brought it up every rap. That they were behind time, that they need to make up time, that I hope this guy doesn't talk too long.
Yeah, but that's also just like that's like been the running gag in the Oscars for like all the years we were growing up watching. Maybe you were watching the Oscars.
Yeah, but Matt, they started playing the music for this guy, and he stayed up there for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
obvious that he went over time.
Right.
They're not making it up as a gag.
I think he was, though. I don't think it was that big a deal.
I'd completely disagree.
Well,
a million times disagree.
Well, unless Kyle Bosman is lying to everybody, I guess we'll have to disagree on that, because I just didn't get that sense from it, other than like Jeff's normal sort of nervous energy about like how the show is going.
Yeah.
They had enough time to let that kid do the Bill Clinton line at the end.
Well, as they were going away to credits or whatever.
And the same thing happened in the pre-show. That poor girl they put up there every year, who this year looked like was dressed. She was being. They dressed her like she was being consumed by a deranged Muppet.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe her dress.
And
she used to work at IGN, didn't she?
I think so. I don't remember who. She's there every year.
Yeah.
And she's does all the intro stuff and does all the.
She's good, I think.
She just lists all the just same thing as in the show. You lists all the mostly the streaming stuff and a lot of the influencer stuff, which who cares. And I do think it's funny that a lot of times when the influencer stuff or like the best streamer things come up, they don't even read the nominees because no one wants to try to pronounce the names,
because they're all
all numbers and shit.
Yeah,
but no, she did the usual thing. I mean, she does the same thing. It's like nominees for best blah 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 are. And the Game Award goes to, it's like go, get through it. Who cares about the awards? Go, next trailer. It's just the same thing. It's the same. If you ever want these things to be taken seriously as awards, you have to take your own award seriously. Like that's what it comes down to. You have to find space to give out all the major awards on the fucking stage, including Best RPG, for God's sake. Why has that never been presented on stage?
First of all, I do disagree, because last year they would put the awards in bumps. Pre-produced bumps they'd send to commercial. They'd be like, okay, going to pay the bills or whatever. They'd have a little pre-produced video that would have, like, very quickly, you couldn't even read them, the awards. This one, they at least took the time to read the nominees and the winners for almost every award. Again, I have a log of this show here. I can go through them all. I mean, they literally announced almost every award on the show, where somebody actually said the name of the award, the nominees, and the winner. I mean, I know that's
you're almost at the lowest bar.
I get that, but it is better than it was last year.
They are slowly improving to the point that they might almost be considered an award show one day. It's not like when they give somebody an award now, they just announce the two other categories they won that we're not going to mention again for the rest of the show. Yeah, it's improved. It's not good yet.
Well, Tiny Blip in History says, I like trailers. Like the trailers move so fast, less ads. There are ads. Trailers are ads, Blip.
They have ad breaks.
Blip
They're just more trailers.
They are ads.
Like Jeff tosses to ad breaks. They're just trailers for stuff that's out.
It's the same thing.
It's impossible to tell the difference between the show and the commercial break. That's the thing.
It is funny. And like the pre-show, the 30-minute pre-show, they actually did keep some pretty big stuff for that. But still, it's 30 minutes long, and it's like...
I don't understand the point of the pre-show.
I don't either.
Other than getting some minor awards out of the way, I guess. Yeah, but why not just have it be part of the main show?
I don't get it either.
Like, I mean, if there's a pre-show for another awards show, it's because you're doing like a red carpet, like talk to the celebrities thing. And this is just sort of like more trailers.
It could be a case where they
also, actually, the first thing they ran was one of the best things all night, which was the Dead Cells Castlevania thing.
Right.
I'm like, that's cool that they're going to do that.
They kept a couple things.
Castlevania not dead yet. Yeah. Still slightly hanging on.
Thanks to other publishers and developers.
Yeah.
It's funny. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall the show is a better mix. I think it's still too long. So they chopped it down significantly. It's still way too long.
Well, that's the thing about it. It's like, it's too long. So, like everyone's like, we're trying to get it down, it's all trailers. Just run less ads.
Or just run less trailers for small indie games that people don't care about.
Just cut a bunch of trailers out that we wouldn't care about, really, if we're honest. Like, there's a bunch of stuff in there no one's ever going to remember.
Yeah.
Like, that the show is as long as you want it to be. It's not like the Oscars where it's as long as it is because people, there are things that happen and this gets delayed and then this takes a while and the ad break doesn't come back in time and the host goes long and the opening monologue and the acceptance speeches all go too long. Like, that's why the Oscars are too long all the time.
Yeah.
This is as long as you want it to be when you know how long the trailers are. Like, you know exactly how long this is outside of like 4 acceptance speeches.
Yeah. And that was really all there were.
Yeah.
And that still sent the show into disarray.
It's just...
That's hilarious. You're right, though. There's really 4 X factors in the entire show where something could go wrong or somebody could go long or they could go short, which is also a problem.
When I say that the only thing he has real control over time-wise is the musical acts, I mean, it's because the trailers are all a set length.
You know exactly how long
you can't cut those down. The only thing you can accordion are the musical acts.
Yep. It's pretty crazy, but it's still way too long. Like, this show should be 90 minutes to 2 hours max.
Yeah, I think 2 hours plus the pre-show is fine.
It's fine, and I would say too at the pre-show. I think what they're doing with the pre-show is they're creating a soft launch for the show. They're creating like a 30-minute buffer to get people in there before things
realize it's on and unfind it because holy shit! You put here's one thing I do think. Calling it something as generic as the Game Awards is a real search engine optimization problem. Like, when I put the Game Awards in on Twitch or YouTube to watch the stream, I get 4,000 rando channels
Everyone's
streaming it with
restreaming
reactions, and finding the actual Game Awards channel takes like 4 pages of scrolling. It's
YouTube
ridiculous.
is way better at stuff like that, at promoting that stuff. It doesn't things don't get lost. But look, I'll show you guys here. So I kept a log of the entire show, and it is 1, 2, 3 full pages. You can see literally everything that happened in the show. I put down a note. And so on this second page here, which is just a ton of stuff, we just bolded the stuff that we're going to talk about. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 lines out of this entire log are things we're actually going to discuss. So when somebody may say, well, what do you cut out of the show? All of the other stuff that isn't bolded. Cut it out. Look, we are hardcore gamers. Not just hardcore gamers. The hardest of the hardcore. And if there's stuff in this show that's having me glaze over and yawn, and actually, when I was curating this stuff for the show, I'd be like, thank God that there's this game that no one cares about on the screen right now. It'll give me time to catch up and actually create that game page for Judas or some other game that people actually cared about. This show could be chopped down significantly. I'm not saying like chop out all the indie stuff or all the B-grade stuff, but chop out like 90% of it. Yep, get rid of it. People don't care. People do not care. You think about
that's what makes it 3 hours.
Right.
So
yes.
What are you complaining about?
Yeah, get rid of it. Look, he's paying us a visit. She just hopped right up on the desk. That's awesome. You can't see her, unfortunately. She's off camera. Here she comes. She's become a lot more friendly over time. No, you can't really see her, unfortunately. She's just going to chill there. That's awesome. That's great. So anyway, they could chop a metric ton out of this show, and nobody will care. Even most of you will not care. And again, you are the hardest of the hardcore gamers. And there are, according to Jeff, 85 million people watching this. They are not the hardest of the hardcore gamers. We make up maybe 1% of the people watching the Game Awards. So I think, Matt, it really just comes down to money. I think a lot of these publishers are paying Jeff to put their stuff in the show.
I mean, that's the balance, is like everybody's, paying a fee to be part of the thing. And so you need to have a certain number of ad breaks to pay for the show in the first place.
I think some of the stuff in the show is paid.
That's possible.
I really believe that. Why else would you put some of this stuff in here? Like, it makes no sense.
Well, because like the only other explanation there is like, well, we need to fill the time. But you say it's too long. So why are you filling the time with
would
stuff?
Anybody shed a tear if Dune Awakening wasn't in there?
No. I forgot about that until you just said.
What about the Baldur's Gate 3 release date?
Oh, that was important to me.
Or Wayfinder. But again, we're the hardest of the hardcore. Wayfinder, Fire Emblem Engage expansion DLC.
You can't try to like not program for the hardcore because they're the only ones who are definitely going to watch this. They're the ones watching the whole thing. Like, you got to cater to that.
At least a little bit, sure. But the whole show?
Baldur's Gate 3 is going to be a nominee a bunch next year, too.
It will be.
It's better to be.
I literally just read something off the sheet in the middle of the sheet. You're harping on it. You're missing the whole point. The show is loaded with crap like this that most people do not give two shits about.
Right, but like, that's what I said in the first place about how it's 3 hours, but it's 3 hours because of what they put in it. That's it. You're saying the same thing I did.
Bloated.
You're just picking Baldur's Gate 3.
Company of Heroes 3 console edition. Anybody going to miss that? No. Meet Your Baker. Anybody going to miss that? No. I mean, I can go on and on. It's just one thing after another. It's like, why is it in the show? And when you can't figure out why something happens, it's almost always money.
I know why Company Heroes 3 was in there, because they had never mentioned a console edition before, and they wanted people to know it existed.
No, I get that, Matt, but nobody cares. The people watching this show do not care
sure
that
they do.
Company of Heroes 3 has come into consoles. Oh, maybe. Like, 1% of the people who come to Sifted every day care about that.
Also,
and again,
wasn't that
hardest of the hardcore.
Also, wasn't that just a commercial?
What?
I thought Company of Heroes was
I don't think so.
Commercial.
But again, it's hard to tell whether...
It is hard to tell, but like... I don't give a shit about Genshin Impact either, but I think they were paying for half the show, so, like, what are you going to do? Like, like, I'm saying, like, cut, like, the weirdo indie shit that no one's ever heard of and will never hear of again and may or may not come out. Like, I wouldn't cut Company Heroes 3 out. That's an actual major AAA game.
It's not.
It is.
It's not at all. That game maybe is lucky to sell 1 million copies on PC. Like, it's not a big game. It's not. Again, our audience struggles to put themselves in the shoes of other people. They think everything needs to be made exactly for them, and if it's not, it's a failure. And that's not how things work. The vast majority of people are not like us. They're not. We are freaks of nature.
Right, but we're the ones watching this show.
We're not. If there's 85 million people watching
there are not 85 million people watching the Game Awards. Come on.
If there's 10 million people, 2 million of those people are like us.
Well, is it E3 or not E3? Because E3 should program to people like us and care about whoever else they get in the net.
No, what we've said about E3 all along is that it reaches beyond us, and that's why it's important. It goes on USA Today and CNN and all these...
Yeah, but it still covers all the major shit that like people like us care about. Like...
You don't see crap like this in the big three press conferences.
You'd absolutely see something like
one.
Yeah.
You'd see like one of them, not dozens of them.
I mean, you'd only see... Well, yeah, but like you're picking out Baldur's Gate and Company Heroes.
I didn't pick that out. It just was the thing on the page, Matt. Stop fixating on that game.
But
I'm making a broader point, and you keep going back to that one example. Wow, I really fucked up choosing that game out of the 80 on here.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, focus on what we're talking about. It's not about one game. It's about the rundown of this that's like 4 fucking hours long.
Well, it's 3 hours
or whatever. Long. That's what I'm getting at. It's not about one thing that you keep harping on.
Right, but you're just saying the same thing I already said.
Then why are you arguing with me?
Because your examples suck.
Because what?
Your examples suck.
I didn't. I just ripped off 6 other ones that should have never been in there.
Yeah, but I can't remember what those...
you keep going back to the one.
Yeah, but I can't remember what those are because those were correct examples.
Okay. Anyway, the show should be shorter. We can agree on that. It still needs to be way shorter.
Outside
than 3
of
hours.
some monetary reason for it to be 3 hours, I don't see why it couldn't be 2 hours.
Yes. That's the biggest thing that needs to change. And I know that they did budge in that direction, and the show was shorter this year, and it was smart to do that. I can't even... It's hard for me to even remember how disgusted I must have been last year when it got to like 3 hours and 20 minutes. It still had 40 minutes to go. Like, I got to like 2 hours and 20 minutes this time, and I was like, oh God, this needs to end. And I love games too much. I'm obsessed with video games. And after 2 hours and like 20 minutes, I was like, get me out of here. Like, I don't know. But
there's a situation where that can sustain. Like, you know, we watch E3 coverage longer than that. But like, part of the reason this is hard to watch is because it's just the same tone constantly. It's just ads over and over again. And I'm not saying you should add in developer interviews or anything like that. It's just you can only do this so long before it just becomes noise.
Yep.
And I think somewhere around the beginning of hour 3, it just becomes noise.
It really did. Yep.
And I think that's always been true of it.
Yeah.
I think it's become noise later every year.
Yeah.
But like they've slowly pieced something bigger together. But like, there's only so far you can go until you're just watching another trailer. I mean, and you see some self-awareness, and they no longer say world premiere.
You're right. They did cut all that out.
Well, they stopped.
They had the graphic.
They stopped the world premiere VO years ago.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago.
They stopped
because
the graphic
it became a
that
meme.
Pops up.
Because it was,
yeah.
You know, he is responsive to that. Like he does.
Yeah.
You know, it just a little. There's a little overbearingness to it, and it's always going to have a little bit of that because award shows are pompous by their nature. But also, some award shows can get away with a little pomposity because the awards matter.
Yeah, they matter, or they're just delivering in some other way.
Yeah, and they're trying to be fun, but
like the Grammys. I don't really care who wins. I watch the Grammys to watch the performances.
Yeah, nobody cares who wins the Grammys.
Yeah. But I watch the performances are amazing. They're generally some of the best live performances from the year.
And like, look, the live performances in this show are usually really good.
They are,
too.
yeah.
Like, the music is probably the symphony orchestra, and some of the musical performances outside of Imagine Dragons are probably some of the things that like almost everyone can agree are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Are they a reason to watch the show? Not really. You can watch them on YouTube later. But but they're generally good. Like the one flute guy who was super into everything. Like he was fun. Like watching the symphony sections. It's just, you know, it's there's not much more to it than that in terms of like kind of that self. You know, because
there were 3 or 4 musical performances.
I think there were 3.
So that's 1 per hour.
There was like the God of War choir singy thing.
There was the Game of the Year stuff.
Game of the Year stuff, and there was the Diablo 4 with that artist that everyone knew but me.
And that was it, I think.
If there's another one, I can't remember.
So that's 1 musical performance per hour, roughly. And that's not enough to mix things up. To your point about it all becoming kind of like monotone and white noise, you're right. Like it just settles into this groove and just stays there.
Yeah. But we know for a fact that people will watch way more gaming content than that all at once, both in terms of Twitch stuff and in terms of like just E3 coverage during those 3 days. But no one would watch this for 12 hours because it's just
shoot me.
At a certain point, it's just stop. It's just stop.
Yeah.
Like anything different, and there's just there's the artificiality of it. There's the weird like like Jeff does come off as like sort of an old school smarmy game show host sometimes. It's just like hey, I guess it's like. There's like a lounge singer element to it that almost happens after a while, and like.
I mean, we talked last year about how maybe it's time for Jeff to pass the torch and let somebody else host it. And I feel like this year that came to bear because things went wrong at the beginning. And as I said earlier, he's like, you're trying to fix it while you're the host of the show. It's impossible.
And he's not like, he's not a host who can roll with it and sort of improv. Like I said,
improv with funny jokes.
Like I do think that he's got people behind the scenes handling shit. But I think the references to how long the speeches were going to be, I think that was his idea of a joke, at least to some. Even if it was also a hint that you shouldn't talk 10 minutes when you win Best Narrative, I think it was also a joke. And not exactly Billy Crystal material.
No,
it's
definitely didn't get a laugh out of me.
A host,
I was like, man, you're scrambling, you're in trouble.
A host at the Oscars, has to kind of be able to work on their feet that way.
Yeah,
and sometimes that blows up in your face. To be fair,
well, I think a lot of it too depends on if you've worked in a live show environment or if you've worked on a big award show before, and you realize how one domino that doesn't fall the way it's supposed to has repercussions throughout the whole rest of the show. So I felt uncomfortable having worked in production on shows like this. I was like, oh no. And then he just kept harping on it over and over. I'm like, let it go, dude. We get it. He talked too long. It's okay. Like, you'll probably be able to figure it out. And he did ultimately figure it out. So it was all consternation for nothing. Let's talk about...
Clearly they saved 5 minutes somewhere in there. I mean, I'm sure they planned
probably like you said,
for him to talk for a while.
Yeah.
Because, Christopher Judge talked for a long time last time.
He did,
He's a very impressioning speak. I don't know, I lost the word there.
Charismatic, yeah.
Well, I stopped paying attention after about 5 minutes. Like, I was like, what he had to say was so important and beautiful. I'm like, sure, but get on with it.
Yeah.
Presentation matters, and I was very over it.
It was too long.
Point.
Yeah. And that's how you start the show.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that was probably intentional because at least if you put that first, you know how far behind you are.
That's true.
If you put that near the end
for the rest of the time.
You're done. Like, you can't save any more time.
That is a good point. Yep.
Like, I think he knew that was going to happen. Maybe he didn't know it was going to be
that bad.
7 minutes of Al Pacino not being able to read the teleprompter. Clearly, the teleprompter needs to be bigger.
Next
year because both Pacino
a couple
and Roberta Williams and some. Look, if you're going to be inviting people older than me, to read the teleprompter on stage, that teleprompter's got to be those big giant panels not the thing on the camera.
Like, exactly.
He knows that. Come on.
He should. Yep. So that's the show. Let's talk about the awards, Matt. Really, no surprises in the awards. In fact, Matt and I predicted the award winners for, was it like 6 categories or 5 categories last week?
It was 4.
Yeah, there weren't that many, but we predicted the winners, and we got them all right.
You just picked the big ones that were almost, except for RPG, which we really thought was going to be on stage this time, but wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the ultimate result of that would just have been the From guys talking twice. So it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's awards.
Yep. So Matt and I got them all right, except for he and I split on Best Narrative. I said it was going to be God of War. He said Elden Ring, and God of War did win that one. But otherwise, we were unified and we were right in pretty much all of them. So there were really no big surprises, I didn't think. There's no award where I was like, what? That doesn't make any sense. There was a lot of this game is going to win this, so this other game is going to win that. I don't know if that was orchestrated or not. Maybe it just worked out that way. But there was a good bit of that. Everybody seemed to win, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I don't know how secret the winners are.
Yeah.
I mean, the most award shows, the winners are held in super secrecy from everybody. I don't know how secret these are. If nobody knows until they open the envelope, or if Jeff knows all the winners, or what, I don't know.
Yeah. But I thought overall the awards were good. There's nothing that I really objected to. I was like, that doesn't make sense, or that seems weird, or anything like that. I thought they all made at least sense. And that's all you can really ask for from an award show where the awards are being given by a committee of 30 or 40 people, is that you just, as long as you're not offended by the nominees and the winners, I think that's all you can really ask for.
Yeah, I mean, some of the nominees are questionable, but I don't think any of the winners were particularly. Yeah,
nothing stood out for me.
I know people were like, oh, Horizon got snubbed. I'm like, did you think Horizon had a shot against
it did get snubbed?
This?
But God of War.
But also, I mean, I loved Horizon Forbidden West, but like
too.
I didn't see anything that it didn't win the thing that one didn't deserve over Horizon Forbidden West. You know, it's just.
I think this year
Horizon's got to come out in a year where it doesn't get smashed by an open world game a week later.
Yep.
Zelda and then Elden Ring, and then isn't up against God of War later. Like it's just like it was just it had the double whammy of like. It came out like within the same month as Elden Ring and got buried in terms of like just like mind share, and then on top of that, it like the biggest imaginable PlayStation exclusive outside of maybe Last of Us 3 came out at the end of the year, and that's what everybody was thinking about when they went to vote for these things.
Yeah.
So you know there is maybe some recency bias there.
There is, but I'm sure there is. But like, look, I played Horizon Forbidden West more than any other game this year, as far as the hours that I dedicated to the game. So obviously, I'm a big fan of it. And I really enjoyed it.
I didn't expect it to win anything that night. And
I don't feel like it got ripped off. Like after watching the show, there was no point where I was like, Horizon should have won that.
Like I'm just happy it got nominated for a bunch of shit. I was worried it would get forgotten entirely.
It did seem like God of War won a lot of the individual awards, and then Elden Ring won the big one, the Game of the Year award.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah,
that.
But like I said, everybody managed to win somehow.
Yeah, but I get like the.
Could it have been organic? Maybe not. I don't know. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, and then I saw some people complain that they don't think Elden Ring was an RPG. At least not in the same way that like the other RPGs.
What is an RPG then?
I mean, at this point, it seems to just be: do you have stats? You're an RPG. Like, and that's about
to
it.
me, an RPG is like if you have control over your character and how the character progresses. That's an RPG to me. A lot of people, it seems like if you don't create your own character from scratch, that seems to be the definitive line. But then if you go back and look at the SNES RPGs, like you couldn't do that in any of them.
I mean, by that definition, Final Fantasy VII is not an RPG,
right?
So that doesn't work.
I can't figure out what people think are RPGs anymore.
I mean, often it involves like more, but none of it really works. It's like, oh, well, you should have more choice in playing a role in the story. Again, you've disqualified almost every JRPG at that point. Or it's stats and character stat points and stuff. Okay, well. There's a bunch of RPGs.
Almost every action adventure does that now.
Yeah, and it's like there's both ways. Like there's do I have a lot of stat point control in like Tales of Arise? Not
it's
really.
like what's the line there? Like, how many stats do I have to have that I can tweak before it's an RPG?
RPG at this point generally seems to mean story heavy, character driven, big adventure with stat points and hit points.
Yeah.
But then like Elden Ring kind of isn't that because the storyline isn't really very important unless you're looking for it.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to not call
it's an
Souls
RPG.
games an action
Elden
RPG.
Ring is an RPG. I don't care what
because you have
says.
so much control over the character growth. Yeah. But also that kind of comes down to like the difference between Western RPGs and Japanese RPGs, where Japanese RPGs have always been more of a wizardry-inspired kind of storyline thing, and Western RPGs tend to be more like take this character and build him up into a series of numbers, and then you can hit the bird harder, kind of thing. It's a very different philosophy. But
I think everything.
But you can't split it because then Elden Ring is that a Western RPG because it is very inspired by Western RPG stuff, but it's made in Japan. So is it? But then like is Crosscode a JRPG?
Yeah,
because that wasn't made in Japan, but it does use the JRPG trope. It's a very weird category, and the RPG definition has gotten so broad. It's sort of like the action adventure categories in this, where they sort of like just sort of split them up into what they thought might be a good mix. Like I
think what's happened is that almost every game now has some RPG elements, and so people, instead of being like everything's an RPG, which it kind of is now, people are rebelling and saying now they want to create these delineations and say, well, that's an RPG and that's not an RPG. When the truth is, they all are. Like they're all just now, almost every genre now incorporates some kind of leveling, some kind of hit points, some kind of experience points where you can level up your character. It's just the RPG genre has invaded every other genre.
I mean, technically in Pong, you play the role of a paddle.
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to get down to it.
It's true. Yeah.
Like, and at this point, sometimes it seems like people just consider an RPG like, well, if I got really attached to the character or the characters, that's an RPG.
Yeah.
And it's like,
no.
okay.
I mean, then an adventure game could be an RPG.
Yeah, a lot of people can, I've seen people call Zelda an RPG.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it that.
That's a big time stretch to me. Yeah. So anyway, everything's getting blurry.
And sometimes back in the old days, it was like perspective stuff. It's like, oh, Zelda's clearly an RPG because it's a top-down three-quarter thing the way Final Fantasy is.
You're right. It's evolved over time.
It's hard to pin down.
Yep. And we'll be doing it on Friday when we do our own Game of the Year awards.
And in this particular year, I think you had issues where, like, that RPG category was a lot of games that are hard to compare to each other, especially with Elden Ring in the mix. True. The only inclusion in any of those that I really had an issue with is Sifu being nominated for fighting game, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's absurd. Yep.
That's not what a fighting game
Agreed.
is.
So I think in general, like, the awards were fine. Like, there was nothing that really rankled me where I was like, that doesn't make sense. That shouldn't have won, or that shouldn't have been nominated. Like, I think overall the editorial committee did a pretty good job in delivering the actual awards. Now, let's get to why
But they really should consider every genre award should be given on stage, I think. If you want to blast through, like, best streamer and esports and best esports coach and all that bullshit, sure. But best RPG should be given on stage.
I agree.
Even if the people who made it can't get to the United
States. There should be more people accepting awards on stage.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yep. So let's get to the reveals, which is why everybody really watches the Game Awards. Let's be honest. That's the truth. Like, I do feel like somehow Jeff has managed to finagle the Game Awards to a place where whatever his show gives Game of the Year is the general consensus of what the Game of the Year is. Would you agree with that? Like, when we talk in 5 years about 2022, we're probably going to say, or even maybe 2021 is a better example, whatever game generally the Game Awards gives Game of the Year seems to be like what becomes the lexicon of, well, that was the Game of the Year for 2021.
Was It Takes Two really that game for last year?
Yeah, I guess you're right, actually.
This year, I think it is. Yeah. For sure. I think normally, It Takes Two was an outlier in there.
A little bit. And I don't know how much that had to do with Joseph Fares's connection to the Game Awards,
Very good question.
I'm not going to ask those questions. But generally, I think they did a pretty good job on the awards. Nothing that stood out to me like a sore thumb anyway.
Not really. I mean, clearly some of the influencer streamer shit could have been horribly
I would have never known.
I will never know.
No clue who the right person is to win those awards.
Was that the best esports coach of the year? I don't know.
I wonder how they figured that out.
I don't want to know.
I don't either. Okay, let's get on to the reveals, which again is why most people watch the Game Awards, myself included. I'll just be honest, like, that's generally why I watch it, because I've played all these games. I don't need someone to tell me which one is better or which one isn't. I'm about to do that on Friday. So let's talk about the pre-show. Again, 30 minutes long. There was just tons of stuff. As you said, it kicked off with the Dead Cells Castlevania DLC, which came out of nowhere because I think a lot of people thought Dead Cells was a dead game, meaning that we probably weren't going to get a lot more DLC for it. Out of nowhere, here comes Castlevania, which is a perfect fit for Dead Cells, I would add.
Oh, yeah. Works very well, even though art style kind of fits.
Yep, it was a great fit. But then it was like filled with like best mobile game and Vampire Survivors and like.
I mean, Vampire Survivor is going to be on Game of the Year lists.
You think so?
Unquestionably.
Wow, interesting.
It's one of the highest rated games of the entire year.
Wow. Hellboy, Web of Weird, just like a cell shaded Hellboy game.
That got a lot of hype, and I'm like, that game looked. I mean, the visuals looked amazing, but like, you could tell watching it, that game's not going to play well.
Yeah,
like, that was some really mediocre looking combat.
Yeah. Then they showed a new trailer for Horizon Call of the Mountain, which is basically the killer app for PlayStation VR 2. And there was games like Viewfinder, like Among Us Hide and Seek, Atomic Heart, After Us, Best Family Game. Like they really loaded up the pre-show. And probably the two biggest announcements, I think, probably are Returnal for PC. I guess you saw that The Last of Us Part 1 is going to go to PC 6 months after it was released. So that window between PlayStation to PC is shrinking.
Well, for a remake of a 10-year-old game.
But Returnal has actually been available for a long time. Yeah, it's been like 2 years. So I think most people are going to be cool with that. And honestly, like, this game didn't sell that great. I hope it does go to PC and sells gangbusters because it deserves it.
Yeah, this was good.
It deserves way more sales. It got me into roguelikes, and I typically hated that genre. So
yeah, this and Hades are about the only games like that I can really tolerate.
Me too. And there's a reason why they're two of the biggest roguelikes ever made, because it worked that way for a lot of people. It resonated with a lot of people. So PC players, you're about to find out what us console players have been talking about with Returnal for a long time. That's pretty exciting, and it makes total sense. I mean, it's due and it's ready for PC. No one's going to complain. And then we got the Street Fighter 6 release date, story mode trailer, blah, blah, blah. it really feels like, particularly with this show in the rearview mirror now, that it's really hard to surprise us anymore. Almost everything leaks, Matt.
Well, especially from Capcom.
Yeah.
Like nothing stays quiet with Capcom.
Well, it doesn't help because they had that huge leak that had a lot of information in it. So a lot of its games are really ruined now for the next like couple years.
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised about that. But like all the release dates for stuff, like we knew about almost all this stuff before the show even started. And Street Fighter is coming out on June 2nd of next year. So another 6 or 7 months to wait until it comes out. This trailer mostly focused on the single-player campaign, which looks absolutely bonkers, Matt.
Yeah, I'm not
it
sure
really looks insane.
I'm not sure what to make of any of it.
I can't either. Like, it could be like the most awesome thing ever. It could be the worst thing ever.
The Street Fighter, that's a coin flip.
And look, I don't count on a campaign being great in a fighting game, so whatever. But this one definitely looks crazy.
I do enjoy that there's a campaign online to make them change the box art.
Oh, really?
The box art's awful.
I saw it, actually.
It's just awful.
Yeah, I mean, the logo for this, there was that big issue with the logo when it was first unveiled. It was stolen from, like, some, like, clip art thing. Like...
Yeah, this will be a real good to what happened episode when the time comes.
I'm excited for this though, Matt.
No,
I'm way more excited for Street Fighter 6 than I was for Street Fighter 5.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how much I can care about the campaign mode until I see more of it. It seems very odd.
I'm not hanging my hat on it. I'll put it to you that way.
You never here with Street Fighter for a story.
Yeah.
You know, it's just not It's just not what they do well.
Why are they pushing Luke so much with this entry? He's never been a big character in Street Fighter.
I don't know. They want to have this new... Him and that other guy are basically... They're pushing as the new Ken and Ryu. And I don't know why. I don't really know why.
You don't need to replace Ken and Ryu.
No, they're fine.
They're fine.
They seem to be doing okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's like, no one tried to replace Sonic with Shadow.
No.
Like, you've had these characters for 30 years. They're fine.
It's so weird.
Did you not learn your lesson from Street Fighter 3?
Yeah.
When you tried to, like, drag everybody out, except for Ken and Ryu, and, like, everybody hated it, and you had to, like, put everybody back in.
Yeah.
And then for Street Fighter 4, at least, they were like, oh, here's all the originals. There you go.
Yeah.
Like, done. I don't know. I don't know why you'd want to focus on... Like, why would you not put the characters people know on the cover of the fucking game?
Yeah.
I don't
get it either. So anyway, that was the pre-show. Really two big things: Returnal for PC and the Street Fighter 6's release date. And then we go into the main show. And obviously, as we talked about already, that kicks off with Al Pacino, who looked like he rolled out of his man cave and hadn't seen the light of day for a good 4 years.
Yeah, I would love to know the story behind how he ended up there. Like that
My guess is Jeff's dad.
Jeff's dad known as an agent or something.
Called in some favors. Yeah.
Because Al Pacino, as far as I know, is capital R retired.
Yeah. He hasn't been in... He was in that Netflix thing, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he'll do stuff.
Yeah.
Still, but like, also, he did say like, he doesn't play video games, but he's watched his kids and grandkids play them a lot. So
yeah, maybe
he does like. Maybe he's like, oh, that sounds like fun. That'll be easy. Cool.
I mean, he's an actor. So he's giving away the voice actor award. I guess
I assume that Jeff just wanted the biggest actor he could get to give away the voice actor award. And he got one of the biggest ones of ours or any generation. So well done.
People were shocked. I was shocked. I was like, really?
I was glad Christopher Judge got to meet him up there. You know, clearly he was excited to meet. Anyone who's an actor, especially of Christopher Judge's age, our age, is gonna see Al Pacino as one of the top of all time, and the fact that he got to be given an award by him, that's a big life moment. That's really cool.
Absolutely.
Like so in the end, like, I think it was probably an all around positive choice.
Yeah. For sure.
I hope Al Pacino didn't mind standing there for 12 minutes.
Well, with the teleprompter, he couldn't read it. That may have something to do with that. And then
that was one of the things when Christopher Judge was talking so long. I'm like, let Al Pacino sit down.
Yeah.
Come on.
And then the first big reveal of the Game Awards 2022 was Hades 2, the sequel to Hades, obviously, which is arguably the best-selling roguelike of all time. Certainly the best reviewed.
Unless you're talking about, like, probably every version of Elite probably put together.
Yeah, if you add them all up.
30 years. Yeah, in terms of, like, a single release.
But Hades made the roguelike, or the roguelite, palatable to people like me. People who had not enjoyed them in the past, it really worked through a lot of the kinks and the roadblocks that have kept me from enjoying them prior. I loved Hades, and I'm probably going to love Hades too. Let's just be honest. Also, I would add, of all the games that are debuted in the Game Awards 2022, the second most viewed trailer of them all, Matt. Are you shocked by that at all?
Not really. Like, this is the audience, I think, that watches these for the most part, are the more plugged in hardcore people that like these games. And
well, these people didn't watch. They watched it afterwards, the trailer.
Yeah. Well, that's also where your interest lies.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and also
they actually probably didn't watch the show and just
also didn't Hades come out? Wasn't that originally shown on the Game Awards?
I think so.
That sounds right to me.
It does sound right to me as well.
Now, look, it doesn't do a whole lot for me. Just like Hades 1, I'm probably going to get early access to support them and then not play it until it goes 1.0, because I can't think of anything more frustrated than playing an unfinished roguelike.
That is pretty frustrating. And they are going down that path again.
Huge props to the Hades early access people for,
jumping on the
helping
grenade.
them hone that and make it really good.
Agreed.
So that I could play it when it was finished.
Yep.
But boy, do I not have any interest in that.
And they are doing that again. So it's going into early access
sequel,
this year, and they're going to get the community involved to help finish off the game. So
and this is their first sequel.
Yes. Yeah, they've never done a sequel before. And there's not a lot of information other than what you can glean from this trailer.
No.
They basically delivered one sentence, and it says, battle beyond the underworld using dark sorcery to take on the Titan of Time in this bewitching sequel.
Yeah.
Do you glean anything from the actual trailer that goes beyond that?
Well, it looks like you're playing as Artemis, and you're trying to rescue Zeus, her father, and Kronos, of course, is Zeus's father, who was the Titan who was eating all his children.
Yep.
So I imagine it's just going to kind of, they reference the war with the Titans in the first one, and I assume that in this one that is all going to come to fruition, basically.
Yeah. Great trailer.
Yeah.
Doesn't show a ton of gameplay, but what it does show is enough.
Yeah, I mean,
like, we get it. We know what Hades is.
Hades, yeah.
Yep. So I'm excited
Nothing
about
wrong
that.
with more Hades.
Yeah. How do you feel about Jeff kicking off the show with this being the first big reveal?
I think it's a good move. I think it's, you got to start with something big.
I think it also, as you mentioned, hooks in more of the hardcore audience.
And I think it's important. It's always important to start with something big and something like this, because then you have that sort of like, well, you can't stop watching because they might do that again.
Yeah.
So it's a good way to sort of set the stakes.
Yep, absolutely. Second big reveal, Judas. From Ghost Story Games, which is Ken Levine's new studio. This also leaked. Like, we already had like a game page for Judas on Sifted because the title of the game had leaked beforehand. We had not connected the dots that it was Ken Levine's game yet. We thought it probably might be, but we had not connected those dots yet. As it turns out, the game that had leaked is Ken Levine's new game, which looks a whole hell of a lot like BioShock.
Yeah, when you got a good idea, stick with it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, this might as well be like the next BioShock, honestly.
Looks like it.
It looks like it. It sounds like it. It plays like it. It's another first-person, like, action-adventure / shooter, whatever you want to call it, that, when you watch trailers, makes no sense whatsoever. Here's the information we have on this game so far, and again, they haven't given up much. A disintegrating starship, a desperate escape plan. You are the mysterious and troubled Judas. Your only hope for survival is to make or break alliances with your worst enemies. Will you work together to fix what you broke, or will you leave it to burn? What does that tell you, Matt?
Not much.
Not much. This just looks like it's all over the place. It looks like it's jumping time again. Maybe they'll get it right this time after the last game didn't handle it particularly well.
It's hard to tell. I mean, it might jump back and forth between parts of the journey you're on in the spaceship or quantum shit. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. And remember, Ken Levine was kind of dragged through the mud because the team working on this, there were all these reports. Was it Jason Schreier who wrote that story?
Yeah, probably.
About how employees were like that he keeps changing the game on the fly and no one really knows what it is. And
it seems like very similar to what happened to Infinite.
Yep. But based on those stories, I am shocked that we're getting a look at this already.
I get the impression that this game's a long way out.
You think so?
Yeah. This feels like a proof of concept kind of trailery, teasery thing. That looks to me. I mean, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, cool. I'll see you in maybe 2024 if we're lucky, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, or did they even say? I don't think they even shared a release date.
There was no any kind of time.
Yeah, which means you're right. It's at least 2024. Mm-hmm. Everything that's coming out in 2023 in this show said 2023. So, yeah, I agree with you. Probably not coming out this year. And I would say even probably next year might be a...
Oh, apparently I'm wrong.
What?
I don't know.
Shore says, Matt, you are wrong. Okay. Cinetype, none of this was actual gameplay footage. I think it was all in-engine.
It looks in-engine. It doesn't look like gameplay.
There were some gameplay snippets. There was a couple shots where it was like in first person and you could actually see what the game's going to play like. Let's see if I can jump through it here and find it quickly.
Yeah, but it's pretty simple to rig up this is what gameplay will look like in an engine. I mean, like, none of that necessarily means the game is playable.
Yeah, right. There's a shot from
yeah, that's clearly what it's... I mean, because it's just like make a thing that looks like Bioshock. Done.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the game is done, anywhere near done.
Yeah. Yep. What did Shora say that he had heard that there was a release date? The Legacy says Jeff played it and said it was in-engine footage. Jeff actually did say that he had played a big chunk of this before the show. I saw that as well. So it's playable,
all right,
which is good. But I still don't think,
as Ashes in the Hourglass points out, so is Cyberpunk 2077.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they played like 30 minutes of that right in front of my face, and it was nowhere near done. So,
till you give me an actual date,
yeah, I agree with you. I think 2024 at the earliest. Let's see. Next up, the next big game was Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. We get the unveiling of Batman inside the game, and not only that. Voice actor Kevin Conroy is doing the voice of Batman. Do you think this might be his last gig as Batman?
I would assume so.
You don't think maybe there's some TV show or something he was working on behind the scenes?
I don't think so.
Wow. So this will be it, huh?
That's too bad.
That is too bad. But I'm glad they got him to work with him.
Yeah, well, he is Arkham.
Yeah, I'm wondering, too, if this was the plan all along, as far as their marketing plan, that this was when they decided to unveil Batman, or if they're just...
I don't know. I can't tell what the hell they're doing with this.
It really is hard to tell.
How in the world... I mean, where is this game? Like, why is this? Why is it another story trailer?
I know.
Why aren't you showing us more
big
gameplay?
chunks of gameplay being played? Yeah. It's a little.
And we've seen some of that with like that rooftop battle thing from earlier last year or this year. But like this game's 6 months out, and we still haven't really seen a lot of how this thing plays, particularly when it comes to fighting the Justice League.
The gameplay loop. We haven't seen the gameplay loop of this game yet. Yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised like you are. I thought for sure we just get a big chunk of gameplay for this at the show.
Sure, F says he's a developer on Judas.
Oh.
So it's further along than I think.
Oh, that's great.
All right. Good.
Awesome. Welcome, Shora. Shora, I've seen Shora comment on some of our YouTube stuff, and he is a dev. He's been in our YouTube comments for a while talking about development stuff, so I can vouch for him that he's legit. So he would know. So that's encouraging. Maybe it is going to make it out next year. And maybe we'll have Shora come on the show sometime and we can do a quick interview with after the game comes out about what it was like to make the game. And if all the stories people wrote were accurate or not, which some of them are, some of them aren't. So be interesting to find out. Are you excited for this, Matt?
Suicide Squad?
Yeah.
No.
No? You're still not excited even a little bit. I mean, that says a lot for you, Matt.
I mean, I don't care about these characters. I don't care about the
Is that really what it is?
Like, I enjoyed James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie, and Peacemaker was good, but, like, I don't care about the general concept. The only character in this whole group I would want to play as in any way would be Harley. And I think that's going to be true of most people, frankly. Like, maybe Captain Boomerang might have some interesting stuff to him just because he's sort of the mid-range character, the mid-level character who's got, like, support plus range stuff. But, like... all four of the four of these characters are incredibly dull to me.
I agree. You're fighting against all the characters that you want to play as.
Well, also, there's a bunch of Suicide Squad characters I would be more interested in, but they're not here.
Right.
Like, if you were going to give me like a whole lineup of guys to pick from, you might be able to pick, Enchantress, or like there's a bunch of different villains I might be interested in. Killer Frost, there's a lot of ideas that I'd be interested in. But again, they're clearly balancing this game for these four because there's going to be specific things they all have to do, and there's the team element too. I just don't care. I don't want to play. Also, again, just like Gotham Knights, I would be more forgiving of it if we were getting regular Batman content. But we are not.
Yeah. Instead, you're trying to kill him.
It's been 8 years. 8 years since Rocksteady made a game, and this is it.
It's taken him 8 years to make this game.
I mean, I'm sure
Think
they may be
about
working
that.
on something that
I'm
didn't
sure.
make it in the meantime.
I mean, they
but,
could have made 2 great games in this time.
Yeah, theoretically. I mean, yeah.
4 years is a long time.
This is not at all what I would want to continue the Arkham series at. Like, I don't.
Well, all I'm going to say,
especially because it feels like this started as a project back when Suicide Squad was like, not that the David Ayer movie was any good, but like it was, that version of Harley became like the big Halloween costume that year. It had a cultural impact, it had a pop culture impact. Mm-hmm. And now it just feels like it's so far removed from anything. And now, and it had kind of the, it's using the King Shark thing, which synergizes with the James Gunn version and all that. But like, did it matter? I don't know. Like, it's so.
All I can say is I hope it proves you wrong. Because I think you'll be happy too. Like, if the game ends up being good.
Yeah, I'd rather it be good, but it's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
Like, they'll have to. I mean, maybe they have really creative ways you have to beat the different Justice League members. But then
it is just dragged on. The development of this game has dragged on way too long. Like, they've lost that wave of hype.
Yeah, is it going to be playable by myself? Like, am I going to have to do co-op stuff?
That's a big question.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's not what I want out of these games. Like, it's just
it's also like it's the combination of the game hasn't overly impressed in conjunction with the fact that we're losing something that we really like.
Yeah.
So we're losing the Batman Arkham games for this, and this hasn't impressed us yet, and it's hard to accept. I agree with you. I am definitely more excited for this game than you are, because I do have faith in Rocksteady that it can make a good game still, but as the development of this game has continued to drag on, I continue to question that. I'm like, have they had brain drain? Have they had talent drain? Have they lost some of their best programmers, some of their best engineers?
To the company.
Yeah.
Like 8 months before the game comes out. Yeah. Like, none of these are good signs.
They're not. Yep.
None of these are
They're red flags, for sure. Next up, a game that hopefully you are at least a little more excited for, Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
The next game from Respawn. If that game had made it out this year, it would have been in a very similar position as the last one, where it wasn't a particularly strong year for games, and it might have had a shot to like sneak in and win Game of the Year.
Although, to be fair, this does look a lot more solid than
it looks way better.
Like, it does not have that. The first one, I mean, I really like the first one, obviously.
Yeah, it's my Game of the Year. It was a weak year for games, but
there
it was
is an
my Game
element
of
like. It's hard to describe unless you've played a lot of games and you know that difference between a top level A-list game that like feels concrete in your hand and a game that feels like it's about to tear apart at any moment.
Yep.
And
the paper mache game.
Yeah, Fallen Order has that element of like, oh, this might go all wrong in any moment, like, or his feet are not going to connect with the ground correctly, or like you never quite trust the jump sort of thing. And this does not. This looks like a much more concrete, grounded, like. Everything feels there and solid just watching the combat.
Yep.
The lightsaber.
Well, they show the combat.
Yeah, lightsaber has an effect on things. Like, even if it's not going to kill
decapitations. Better than Callisto Protocol's decapitations.
Yeah, and granted, most of that's happening with droids, but like, there's a little team up thing here. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like here, like this looks good. Like it looks like he's having an effect on the like one of the things I don't like about the first game is like sometimes you fight the big monsters and it feels like you're just whacking them with a Nerf bat.
I feel like that kind of looks like that though. Look, no, there's no blood.
I don't care about that. I mean that
there's no the slice in the monster.
No, but I don't care about that. I mean it's never going to be an M-rated game. It's a Star Wars game, but I like that it
could have green blood though.
I like
that
it reacts to the hit. Like that's the thing. It's like you need to make it react to the hit.
And they show some stuff from the first game that looks like they've tweaked and enhanced a little bit, which is cool because there was some cool stuff. Some of the force powers in the original game were pretty freaking cool. We didn't get a ton of information about it, but here's the paragraph that they supplied. Picking up 5 years after the events of Fallen Order, no longer a Padawan.
Which puts it in the same year as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Is that true?
9 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Okay. Cal has come into his own and grown into a powerful Jedi Knight. Carry the memories and expectations of the Jedi Order with him. His crusade against the Empire has only become more perilous. The dark times are closing in with enemies new and familiar surrounding him. Cal will need to decide how far he's willing to go to save those closest to him. And then they added some context to it. The cinematic combat system returns with additional force abilities and new lightsaber fighting styles, an expanded host of enemies. Explore an untamed galaxy, discover new planets and familiar frontiers in the Star Wars galaxy, each with unique biomes, challenges, and enemies. Master new skills, equipment, and abilities that will augment the ways you explore, fight, and roam. That's interesting. The roam part. With larger areas to explore and more to discover off the beaten path, players who adventure beyond the horizon will find hidden rewards. Again, that's another good thing to hear. Because the last game was basically Metroid, as far as its design, its level design were concerned.
Metroid with Dark Souls bonfires, basically.
But I felt like the discovery part of it was the part that was lacking.
Yeah, well, because all you could find were ponchos.
Yep.
Ponchos, and I mean, the health upgrades were...
Yeah,
there
were helpful.
There were like 6 of those.
Yeah.
And like everything else was ponchos, and all of them were ugly.
Yeah.
And like none of those... I found them all because I wanted to, I wanted to complete everything, but like... None of it felt rewarding. It didn't feel like, oh, I got a really cool thing by solving this little puzzle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is definitely a thing they needed to improve.
Yep. I think it's looking good, though.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite things that I saw in the whole show.
Yeah. I ordered the stupid collector's edition.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. $30 shipping.
The power of marketing. $30 shipping.
$300 thing. You won't give me free shipping? Bite me, limited run. Come on. But, yeah, I want that lightsaber. So.
Yep.
Everybody's like, it doesn't come with a blade. I'm like, yeah, welcome to the party. Like, hello. Like, nothing comes with a blade and lightsaber collecting. Like, it sucks.
Looking at the internet chatter after the show, this seemed to be top 2 as far as interest, people talking about it. I agree, too. Some people in chat were saying it appears to be more fleshed out than a lot of the other games shown. Agreed. But it's also coming out in like 2 months, 3 months.
It's 3 months in.
It's what, March
17th, I think.
17th? Let me double check that real quick. Yes. Yep. So it's coming pretty quick. So it should look finished. We probably should have got a big chunk of gameplay from that as well for this show, but they'll have plenty to show here over the next 90 days leading up to its release. But I think it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited for it. And it's Respawn, so I generally trust their development. Then they showed a new game from the creators of Celeste. We're not going to really talk about that, but I thought it may be worth mentioning in our discussion. And then...
It looked cool.
It did look cool, yep. And then Death Stranding 2. Should this game be made, Matt?
No. I'd rather talk about the Celeste people's thing. Let's go back to that.
It's called Earthblade, is the new game from the Celeste team. Death Stranding 2, even less information about this, and the trailer really doesn't... I mean, I didn't finish Death Stranding 1. Maybe people who did saw something in this that I didn't see, but...
I don't know.
I didn't really pick up on anything that might hint at what this game's going to be about versus the others. Obviously, it's set in the same universe still. There's still babies in weird pod things.
Yeah, I mean, basically, she tries to escape with the baby from people who are trying to kill them for reasons that we don't know. And she fails, and the baby dies, and she dies, and then the baby respawns in the little birth pod jar thing, and
that's that.
That's what Hideo Kojima decided to do today.
Yep. Norman Reedus is returning, and there's a bunch of other celebs working on the game: Léa Seydoux, Ellie Fanning, Shioli Katsuna, Troy Baker, and then the only line of text to explain this game was, quote, "Should we have connected?" unquote. What does that mean?
I imagine it means that the fact that everybody connected up and did all their connection things in Death Stranding 1 has brought a new enemy attention to, who knows?
Because now maybe they can track you easier. Aliens. I don't know. Just based upon the...
I know the answer. Who cares?
Yeah, the critical response to the first game, the sales of the first game, I'm surprised that they're making a sequel to it.
Yeah, I don't know what the...
No, it's a memorable universe that he's created. I'll give him that, but just financially and critically, the game didn't do especially well, so...
It's visually striking.
It is,
but, like, there's nothing to care about there.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there's a sequel coming for this game. But maybe, over time it's released for PC now. Maybe there's a bigger audience for the sequel.
Norman Reedus is Geralt of Rivia.
It does appear that it's going to be a PS5 exclusive again.
This was cool.
Yeah. This is the first thing that reminded me of Metal Gear from
there's a big Metal Gear
from the Death Stranding franchise.
Yeah, what is the I can't remember the name, but it was one of the portable ops. They had the Shagiorolith or whatever. It was like a giant Metal Gear, but it was basically just like a rolling fortress.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. That's the first thing in any promotional media for Death Stranding that looked like Metal Gear to me, where I'm like, oh, that could have come out of MGS. Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of Shinkawa out of that. I don't know if he designed it, but
Yep, for sure. Are you more excited for this than you were for the first game, or less excited?
I don't know. It's just...
I was pretty excited for the first game.
I don't even want to use the word in conjunction with... I mean, I don't want to play this at all. I don't care. That is ridiculous.
It is.
I mean,
yeah.
It's nice they gave Troy something to play with there. But, like, come on.
I'll say this: the marketing for the first game got me. The trailers and everything. I
remember.
I was intrigued. I was like, "Man, this looks insane."
You thought he might have an answer this time,
and I was wrong.
He did not.
Yeah, I was wrong. I did not enjoy playing Death Stranding really at all.
I actually did enjoy some of it in the sense of like the connection stuff and everybody building highways and the fact that eventually you could like build enough roads that you could kind of just run through and get things delivered back and forth with very little effort and problem. I thought that was pretty cool that like there was an evolution of the world that way. However, it does tie into my criticism of it is like that where if you play it correctly, nothing happens. Like the game, the better you play Death Stranding, the more boring it is because nothing happens. Anything that happens is bad.
It's been trouble.
So you want an uneventful run, and now you're basically just a UPS driver at that point. And so, which like there's an appeal to that. I get it, but at the same time, it's like, why am I doing this? Why don't it's
That's
like,
how I felt playing it. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, why don't I just go get a paper route or like go work for UPS?
And I assume that you have the story bits but then like the story bits all felt so different from the main gameplay that I didn't know. It was sort of like Metal Gear Solid 5 where things would happen all of a sudden with like the giant monsters and the weird stuff with like skull face guy, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is not how the rest of the game plays, and you're not telling me what to do. And I just sort of feel lost, and then I kind of accidentally get through it, and then another cutscene happens, and I'm still trying to figure out what I did. And it's not good design. It's really poor game design.
Faradol says, just play American Truck Simulator at that point.
Yeah.
Retro American Gamer never played Death Stranding, but it looks like a walking simulator. It's pretty similar.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Vincent says that Death Stranding turned a profit. That's not good enough.
Power Wash Simulator. There you go. There should be Death Stranding content in Power Wash Simulator. You clean the goo off things. You play as Norman Reedus looking very sad the whole
Sneaky,
time.
who I'm guessing is a big Metal Gear or Kojima fan. His name is Sneaky Charlotte Snake. Says even he admits that the story is gobbledygook.
Yeah.
So if he's come to that revelation, how do the rest of us feel? Yeah. So I'm surprised that there is a sequel coming. So that was the biggest surprise for me with Death Stranding 2. Not that it actually exists and that the trailer itself surprised me or made me form some level of intrigue about the game. But here it comes, another one.
No, it's for me, I guess it's just like, it sure is pretty. I wish I cared.
Yeah.
But
well, they really advertise the Decima engine a lot in their trailers. They really are giving thanks for that engine being handed over so they could work with it. Okay, next up. Tekken 8. This is probably the most disappointing thing from the Game Awards for me because it was one of the few things that we knew was going to be there, and so it was in all the pre-promotion and the marketing and everything for the show. And I thought we were going to get a really in-depth look at gameplay and how the fighting engine has changed. And no, it just ended up being another cinematic nonsense. Like he thinks people care about the story in Tekken way more than they really do. Like it's. To everybody, it's just...
I don't even know what happened in Tekken. I mean...
nobody does, and nobody cares. It's because it's just so stupid. Like, people play the story modes in Tekken to laugh at them, not because they care. And I feel like they've lost... The Tekken developers think that people play it because they really care, when we're really pointing and laughing at it. Because all the talk about this game so far has been about the plot and the story, and it's like, who cares? Who cares about this stuff?
I mean, I'm sure it's partly because like all the balance of the game is not finalized, and so you can't talk about the intricacies of the fighting system until that's all kind of done and closer to release. But this is not really filling the time for me in exchange. Like, I don't even remember what happened anymore at this point. I mean, the Tekken series has been going on so long, and like the conflicts in it with all these different characters have been going on it's so labyrinthine that I just don't remember anymore, and I don't care to be reminded.
Because it's absurd and it makes no sense whatsoever. Once again, this whole trailer focuses basically on a fight between Jin and Kazuya, father and son team, who always seem to fight each other for some reason.
That whole family's got some issues.
It really does. Also, the mother shows up in this trailer, Jun Kazama, who hasn't been in a Tekken game since Tekken 2.
Been a while.
So it looks like she's going to be one of the playable fighters. And then if you really pay attention to this trailer, there are teases for Paul Phoenix, for King, for Law, Lars, and Jack 8. So... that's probably the most relevant thing that's in this trailer. We have a rough idea, at least, of a portion of the roster for the game. And I think those are obvious picks. Like, if those fighters wouldn't have been in Tekken 8, people would have raised hell. So that's low-hanging fruit other than Jun Kazama, who hasn't been in there since Tekken 2. But overall, not that exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean, it looks nice. Very pretty.
And it is all next-gen only, running on Unreal Engine 5. I wish they had shown more in-engine stuff. I mean, that call could have been in-engine, but I wish we had seen it in the context of
a bunch of that
fighting.
Was gameplay. A bunch of the fighting there was gameplay.
Was like in-engine.
Because they've shown a match before.
Yeah. Oh, they have?
I saw gameplay from that at some point.
Really? Because there's the one teaser
when.
trailer that we... Well, there's two teaser trailers. There's the one that was the goofy one.
Yeah, the thing they released right before this was actual, here's a match without a HUD kind of
with
thing.
Camera work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Tekken 8, we don't have any idea for a release date for it yet. But my guess is late.
I think they said late next year.
Yeah, late next year. That's what it looks like. Next up, the next big part of the show was a musical performance by Halsey, which I agree with you, Matt. I had never heard of her, and now I feel old. Because I typically know all the artists like that, all the big up-and-coming underground indie artists. I've never heard of Halsey. She did a song called Lilith, which is in the Diablo 4 soundtrack. We're not going to show you the performance because those performances always get pulled by YouTube copyright strikes. In fact, that just happened to GameFace last week because we showed 18 seconds of the Imagine Dragons performance from last year's show. So I had to re-render and re-upload the whole episode again because we could not monetize it with 18 seconds of Imagine Dragons in a 3-hour show. I love how that works with YouTube. You have 5 seconds of something they don't like, you can't monetize the entire episode. So we had to go back and re-render it. So I'm not showing you the performance. Instead, I'm showing you the release date trailer for Diablo 4. Are you surprised that Diablo 4 is finally coming? I saw some rumblings on the internet that people are saying it's not done and it's going to be forced out before it's ready.
I mean, that wouldn't shock me. But it's definitely sooner than I expected it.
Yeah. Well, they sent the finisher in there to finish it, and he's now been working on the game for quite a while. So how unfinished was that game after all those years when they brought Rod Ferguson in there? Like, way unfinished. Still, after all that time. There's no developer in the industry that takes longer to make a game than frickin' Blizzard, man. It's insane.
Well, except whoever's working on Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Yeah, but it seems like Blizzard works on this stuff consistently, and it just takes 10 years to make a flipping game.
Yeah, well, when did 3 come out? 2012? Yeah.
Or 2011. It's been like 11 years. When do you think we're going to get another StarCraft? They haven't started talking about that yet.
No, I don't even know what
you think we'll ever get another
I don't even know
StarCraft?
what you do for StarCraft at this point. There's no such thing as a giant AAA RTS anymore.
I know.
Really.
Yeah, I mean,
unless you reinvent it completely.
if there is one, it's StarCraft.
I mean, or like Warhammer, Total War, or like something like that. But like they're not like it's not like it used to be. It's not there used to. There was a time when that genre was one of the core genres of PC gaming, and it's just not anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some of the stuff with how long Blizzard takes was always sort of that artisanal, like, we're only going to make it when we know it's great or a worthy, like, thing like that. And now it's sort of like, well, is that going to be true of Diablo 4, or are we just waiting to see what the auction house equivalent is on this thing? And I think there's skepticism as well, just like, coming off the back of Diablo Immortal. Maybe that's why it feels like it's so soon in a way.
It could be.
Is like we just got Diablo.
I literally
Immortal.
just played a Diablo game for a long time, I would add. Like, I spent a lot of time playing Diablo Immortal. But, yeah, I mean, despite the fact that it's taken all this time to make this game, it still feels like it's coming too soon. Because we haven't seen much of this either. Let's be honest.
Yeah. We haven't seen anything, really, other than just, like... Have we
There's
seen
been gameplay. Yeah. They've shown us some, but like they'll show when they debut like a class,
right?
They'll show a chunk of gameplay from that class.
I mean, it's Diablo. I'm not really expecting anything revolutionary here.
Yeah, agreed. Are you excited for Diablo 4?
I'll play it.
Yeah. What do you think of the performance, the musical performance for it?
It's cool.
There's lots of swear words.
Yeah.
There's lots of swear words in this show in general.
Yeah.
People are dropping the F-bomb all over the place during this show.
I mean, Ferris really ripped the Band-Aid off that back in the day.
He really
just
did.
haven't really. And that's. I mean, how many? There's a lot of F-bombs in Ubisoft press conferences too. It's just, it's just sort of. There's a little bit of reveling in the fact that we don't get covered by the FTC.
Right. I wonder if Jeff has ever tried
FCC,
to
not the Federal
get this
Trade
show
Commission.
on TV.
No, that would be ridiculous. Who wants to do 3 hours of that? Come here.
There she is.
No.
You can hear her crying on the mic. It's our little mascot. She's a GameFace mascot. Now she wants some LS cream.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hello.
What's up, Luna? So there you go. That's Diablo 4 coming way sooner than maybe it should, and definitely sooner than we thought. Next up, Horizon Forbidden West DLC.
Cat butt. There you go.
First time on GameFace, cat butt. Horizon Forbidden West, the Burning Shores DLC, taking place in our hometown of Los Angeles, California. Obviously, the base game spent a lot of time in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yeah.
So
and just getting to the West Coast.
Right. So LA isn't that big of a surprise.
Yeah, I figured it was either that or like Seattle.
Yep. They're going to head one way or the other.
There's going to be one of the other.
Or maybe Vegas, although you actually go through Vegas.
You go through Vegas.
Yeah, you do Vegas.
Yeah.
Although that was one of the best parts of the game.
Yeah, it was.
I wouldn't mind going back there for like a big chunk of DLC.
But
there's a Capitol Records building.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome to see all this stuff like overrun living here and driving by it like right after you watch the trailer. And they completely destroy the Hollywood sign.
Yeah. And then put the copyright info up for it.
Right. Which is funny. Are you excited for this? Matt, did you finish Horizon Forbidden West?
I did not.
You did not?
That was a big game.
Wow, I finished it. Like I said earlier, it's the game I've spent the most time playing this year.
Yeah, I keep meaning to go back to it. And I just, where's the time?
Yeah, I'm at the end of God of War Ragnarok now, too. I've gone back and finished that
Yeah, I went
off.
back and progressed more in God of War Ragnarok, but I am not at the end of it.
It's a big boy.
It is.
Not as big as Horizon, but big.
And it's, I don't know, I've really hit a point with that game where I'm just like, you've really shown me everything you got.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't,
With which one?
God of War.
Oh. There's more.
Maybe, but every time it switches off of Kratos, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, and it does it a lot.
Not that I don't want to know this part of the story involved with it. It's, like there's a section with Atreus, like dealing with the Valhalla, with the Norse gods and stuff. And look, I think Odin's very entertaining in that game, but like it's just
that whole section where he goes to visit
on
Odin.
with it.
Yeah, I agree. It drags there. Yep. So anyway, that DLC for Horizon Forbidden West launches on April 19th, so not long to wait. And that'll end up being, about a year after the base game was released?
Almost exactly.
Yeah. Think we'll get another piece of DLC for that after this?
I don't think so.
Me either.
I mean, same with the first one. We got the Frozen Wilds, and the
Which
Frozen
was
Wilds
great.
was big. Yeah, it was great, and it was a big one.
It was.
Yeah. I'm sure this one will also be a substantial chunk, and it'll add to the map, and it'll be great.
Yep.
But no, I'm definitely interested. And being in LA helps because that game is, in terms of its world, like taking advantage of its world, is at its best when you recognize bits of where you are.
We'll try to find your house.
Yeah. Probably not.
Probably not in there, but you never know. And then next up, a game I probably wouldn't have included if it weren't GameFace and you and I, Matt, and that is Transformers Reactivate. Because we are big Transformers fans. A lot of people probably saw this trailer and just let it just go on by. Not me. I'm a big Transformers fan. I feel like I've been waiting a decade for a good Transformers game at this point.
I don't know if this is it.
Yeah, I don't either, man. It doesn't look too promising, to be perfectly honest. Again, this is another game where we got very little information on it. And this trailer
has been in development hell for like 5 years.
Oh, you're aware of this game already?
Yeah, it was called Transformers Rise.
Okay.
And it just got switched over to Splash Damage. That's Ratchet and Ironhide.
Yeah,
very hard to tell.
It is hard to tell. Yeah.
This just got switched over to Splash Damage. It sounds like maybe a year ago, maybe less.
Splash Damage is a good developer.
They are. I just don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. It's a 1 to 4 player co-op shooter. So kind of probably like an Aliens Fire Team, Ghostbusters, whatever they called that thing, which seems to be sort of the standard game as a service license
template
at this point.
Yep.
And from what I understand, you design your own Transformer, which is why they don't actually show anything into. But they do have Peter Cullen and Frank Welker doing the voices of Megatron and Optimus Prime. They've got recognizable characters. I guess the idea is that the Legion is the enemy.
And the Legion has taken over Earth,
which is
and you're basically trying to take Earth back.
There's apparently some form of infectious mutation of the Quintessons So not the Decepticons, which leaves it open for the Decepticons to be playable maybe at some point. But I guess there's a bunch of known characters you'll be interacting with, but it doesn't sound like you'll be playing as them.
Could you team up with the bad guys in this against a common foe?
I think that sounds like what's going to happen.
Interesting.
Because the premise is that the world is lost.
Yeah.
Like you lose that invasion.
Yeah.
And so you're basically the resistance, fighting back with the humans. And that's what they're doing in that scene is like they find a deactivated Autobot and they're like, oh my god, we got another soldier basically.
Looks a little bit like Bumblebee.
Yeah, it was yellowish, but like I think it's supposed to be a new whoever you're gonna play.
I'm just meaning the whole setup of like, oh look, we found this transformer, and oh my god, it turns into a robot. Like,
well, I think they know what Transformers are.
Yeah.
At that point, because they're
that's a good point.
They're teamed up with.
They've already dealt with it. Yep. I'm intrigued, and the fact that Splash Damage is working on it is a good sign. They are a good developer. They make solid games.
Yeah, I just feel like it's going to end up being the usual like co-op shooter thing where like you play it for like 2 days and.
I'll give it a chance.
Yeah.
Because I have to. Because that's what Transformers fans do. you give it a chance. And it may not work out, but you give it a chance. Next up, a new game from one of our favorite developers we talk about all the time here on GameFace, Don't Nod. It is a brand new game called Banisher's Ghost of New Eden. It's set in the 17th century in New Eden. Antia Duarte and Red Mac Wraith are lovers and banishers, ghost hunters who vowed to protect the living from the threat of lingering ghosts and specters. Isn't that a lot like, what's that movie franchise? Insidious or whatever?
Ghostbusters?
No, not Ghostbusters. Insidious, though. They're like the husband and wife team, and she's the medium who can tell where the demons are.
It's like I think they're based on the scam artists that like did the Amityville.
They are,
thing.
yeah. Yep. Because of kind of a similar premise. Following it,
she seems to actually be legit in this game, though.
Right.
She seems to be a ghost.
Right.
So.
Right. Following a disastrous last mission, Antia is fatally wounded, becoming one of the spirits she loathes. In the haunted wilds of North America, the couple desperately searches for a way to liberate Antia from her new plight as a ghost. I think this sounds awesome.
Yeah, this looks really good.
It's an action RPG. Don't Nod now has adequate experience making these games. Once upon a time it did not, but now it does. It has made a couple decent action RPGs. Vampire comes to mind, although that game was a little disappointing.
I mean, the combat in that was not amazing.
Yeah,
but like they probably learned some things.
Hopefully,
we'll see that's the trick here. Is like how is the combat going to be? Because it's clearly action RPG combat.
Premise, writing, that's something Don't Nod's been great at.
I think I trust them to nail that. Like look, anything Don't Nod makes has my attention at this point.
Agreed. Yep, we felt that way for a long time with this studio, and they have really transitioned now from our favorite indie studio.
And also, this is the best looking thing they've ever made. Like that.
Oh
is,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, next
leaps and bounds.
But like compare that to like even Vampire, it's a whole nother level here.
Yep. And we wondered, we're like, how is Don't Nod making all these games? They've really just staffed up.
Yeah.
They must have got some investment from somewhere.
I mean, just look at that compared to like the Life is Strange
or Vampire. Even Vampire. I mean, it looked rough around the edges. This is night and day, no pun intended.
I mean, we'll see how it feels to play, but
that's the X factor for Don't Nod. Absolutely, they have not managed to nail action-based combat yet. So we'll see if they can do that with this. Again, the game is called Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden. Next up. Selfishly, I included this game because I was blown away by it at last year's Game Awards, and it returns for the Game Awards this year, and that is Warhammer Space Marine 2. It's coming. This is also next gen only, PC, PS5, and Xbox Series.
About a game long in the making.
Well, this game last year at the Game Awards had its big like cinematic CG trailer, and now this is all in engine, and this game looks awesome in engine. This is what I've been talking about, Matt. Like, this is, like, we should be getting stuff that looks like this from the smaller guys. We should have been getting this for 2 years from these smaller guys on these new consoles.
This year we should have started getting that.
Yeah.
There's always going to be overlap on that.
But, wowzers. Like, this really, like, my jaw dropped when I first watched this during the live show. It's not very long. I think this trailer is only like 40 seconds long, so they don't give us much. But the other theme for this whole...
You want to show off in a Warhammer game, you bring in the Tyranids. Yeah. Which is preferable to the first one. I like the...
Bless you.
Ooh. I like the first one okay, but there's too much orc fighting.
Yeah.
And Tyranids...
Repetitive enemies, for sure.
Tyranids are a more interesting enemy to me.
Yep. I mean, if this is what the B-tier games are going to look like going forward... Hallelujah. Because this also, the other thing that I've discovered with the Game Awards this year, this was the turning the page moment. Of all the games in this show, there was only a handful for PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah, well, I've been saying that for a long time.
So finally,
2023 is going to be that turning point. It's one of the reasons I say that they launched the systems a year early. Is like they should have waited a year.
We're seeing it, though. Almost every big game that was announced in the Game Awards 2022 are all PS5 and Xbox Series. So if you're one of the people who've been sitting on the fence all this time, and I don't blame you. In fact, I was telling you all along, like, you didn't really need to buy either of these consoles. Now might be the time. This holiday season might be the time.
Maybe after holiday season, because you're not going to find one.
Because January's slow.
Yeah.
And then after January, it's just balls to the wall, awesome games for pretty much the rest of the year. And a lot of them are going to be next gen only. So if you haven't bought one, I hope you ask for one for the holidays. Although at this point, if your significant others haven't been trying to track one down for you, it might be a little difficult to get a PS5 at least. I think Xbox Series, you probably will be able to find one. Or your parents, or your girlfriend, or your wife, or whatever.
They're still pretty tough. They're not as tough as...
Yeah.
Basically, they're not as tough because when they come into stock, they're in stock for a couple hours as opposed to a few minutes.
Right. Yeah. And we did get that report that the bots are starting to lay off of the PS5 because the resale value on eBay isn't as high as it used to be. So things are starting to come around just in time for the shift of game development to next-gen only and away from the PS4 and the Xbox One. It's good to see. Next up, a game called Crash Team Rumble. And this was just on the fringe. This is one of the games that I included that I almost didn't include.
Ugh.
It is a 4 versus 4 Smash Brothers kind of ish brawler.
It's like they created like the perfectly focus tested way to make me not care. I will give them credit though. This is one of the first times I think I've ever seen an art style for Crash himself that made me not want to look away.
Oh,
like he actually looks okay.
Yeah. It is a 4 versus 4 team-based competition where the iconic heroes and villains of the Crash universe battle to capture more Wumpa fruit.
Strong word, iconic. Is it iconic the way Aiden Pierce's hat was iconic? Give me a break.
You're basically just trying to collect more Wumpa fruit than the other team.
I recognize one other character in this, and that's Nefarious, or whatever the evil doctor guy's name is.
There's a little bit of MOBA to this, too, because you're capturing points around the map. But ultimately, you're trying to collect more Wumpa fruit than the other team, and that's the team that wins. This game was not a well-kept secret. There have been rumors floating around about this game for quite a while. I don't think anyone's all that excited about this game, but it is multi-platform if it has caught your eye. And then next up, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty DLC. Finally, we're getting into some real DLC for Cyberpunk 2077.
I thought they were going to cut and run on this game.
Cut bait, and they didn't, man. They stuck with it. I mean, they've continually improved the game. They still are improving the game, which I admire them for. They could have cut bait. I don't think anybody would have blamed them after the debacle this game was at launch, but it has really stuck with it, and honestly, it has paid off for CD Projekt Red because the game has continued to sell. And
it had a big resurgence with Edgerunners when that hit Netflix, which I didn't expect to happen.
Me either. Johnny Silverhand is back. He does the VO for this trailer. You team up with FIA agent Solomon Reed, who is played by Idris Elba. Yeah, I guess the font.
You know Idris
Elba? I know who he is, yeah. I mean, he's a huge star. But what has he starred in? He's in everything, but I couldn't remember exactly one thing that he starred in.
Pacific Rim. He's Heimdall in the MCU. He was under consideration to be James Bond at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
There he is. I mean, he's a huge star, but he's never really I know him. I've seen him in a million things.
3,000 Years of Longing this year.
But to see all the things that you've listed though haven't been burn the house down crazy popular, but everybody knows who he is.
No, Luther. He's been in a bunch of stuff. He's just.
He's one of those guys that you see in everything.
I guess you could probably say Harley, but arguably he was the lead in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
He's Deadshot.
Yeah. Wasn't he in that zombie movie set in Las Vegas that just came out recently?
Probably.
Where zombies have taken over Vegas and
is that
they're trying to fight
Zack
from
Snyder thing.
Yeah. Wasn't he in that?
Yeah, I think maybe.
But that's the type of stuff he seems to be in, stuff that you kind of remember. But it's
he was in The Dark Tower. He was in.
Yeah, he gets a lot of work.
He's supporting a lot of stuff. I want to say he's been in he's been a ton.
Hobbs
of
and
stuff.
Shaw. Faradol says.
Oh, he's the bad guy in that. Yeah.
Yeah. He was in The Wire. That's where I know him from the most.
Well, I think that's the first time I probably encountered him was The Wire.
That's where I remember him from the most. And then, so basically, you go on a mission with him to take on an impossible mission of espionage and survival. So it looks like this DLC is going to have like a spy angle bent to it, which I think is good considering the tone of the regular tone of the game is a lot different than that. It's coming in 2023 to next gen only, Matt. Mm-hmm. They're not even going to bother releasing this for PS4 and Xbox One after the debacle that it was on those platforms.
That's called learning.
It is. Yeah. It's also set in a brand new district of the city. So you're going to enter brand new areas of the open world. I'm wondering if they will finally open up like all the highways that just have dead ends that went to nowhere. I wonder if those roads will lead to this new district now.
I mean, maybe, because it does look kind of like a rundown area with a lot of underground stuff.
Or it could be out in the desert, too.
Yeah, like a lot of it seems to be underground.
Yeah.
So, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, it does feel like there should be more to the map than there is.
Did you ever finish the base game?
No.
So I guess it's foolish to ask you if you'd ever bother playing this then.
Maybe. I mean, if I did, I'll be honest, Idris Elba would be a large part of that, because I like him.
I'll play it. I mean, I finished the base game. I really liked Cyberpunk 2077. I was lucky. I didn't deal with a lot of bugs when I was playing it.
Yeah, I didn't have really all that many bugs. I just find it non-compelling for the most part.
Well, we will talk about another game here shortly in this episode of GameFace that puts all that in perspective and leads me to believe that I may agree with you, Matt. Next up, Armored Core 6 from Software's back.
Were they ever gone?
Not really.
They were in the house.
They're on quite a run.
Yeah.
Fires of Rubicon is a subtitle for Armored Core 6. We've known about this. We talked about Armored Core
we knew Armored Core was
2 months ago on GameFace, and we talked about the franchise and the differences between it and what has ultimately made From Software really popular. And that's the thing here, Matt, is people know From Software for very specific things. Mm-hmm. And after the show is over, people were obviously asking, is this going to be Mecha Souls? Is this going to be Dark Souls with mechs? And they swear up and down that it is not.
No, it's Armored Core.
Yeah.
Mission-based, customize the mech, go do the thing. Although this apparently is more single-player focused than a lot of some of the other... Because the Armored Core went back and forth between like single-player campaign-style stuff and like multiplayer arena stuff or single-player arena stuff. Like Armored Core never fully figured out what it was, especially as it moved into the 360 PS3 era. Armored Core 5 is a very strange game.
Well, it's funny, Miyazaki, the guy behind the Souls franchise and behind Elden Ring, he cut his teeth on this franchise. Yeah. This was the first game where he was the lead.
Yeah, I mean this is this and Kingsfield are what From did.
Yeah, people don't even realize. Yeah,
that was. I have all. There's like 14, 15 Armored Core games. Yeah. I have all of them except I think the spin-off of 5, because there's a point at which, Yep. But like, this was a big deal on PS1. They did tons of these on PS1. They did like 4 of them, or 3 or 4 of them. Master of Arena. I played that with my friend Miguel forever. Like it just never ended. Mm-hmm. And I'm interested. I'm very interested. Obviously, I like giant robots and mechs and Armored Core. I'm curious how well they'll balance, because one of the things about Armored Core is like, you tend to hit these walls where you're like, oh, to beat this fight, I need to have this particular loadout for my mech, and I don't, because I was building it. Like, a lot of the Armored Core games sort of lean on this idea of like, customize your mech however you want to play the game, and then it's like, except for this boss, which is going to require you to be a very specific kind of mech. And if you didn't spend your money on those parts, fuck you. So hopefully there will be a little more flexibility in that. But frankly, I'm just excited to see this game look like it's going to look.
Yeah.
On the new.
It looks amazing.
Hardware.
It's set on a remote planet called Rubicon 3, a world where companies and organizations battle over a mysterious new substance that causes a planet-wide catastrophe. Just like old Armored Core games, it is a third-person action game that focuses on mech customization. It's all about building your mech. And I do wonder if that's where the Souls-ish elements are going to come in, where it's very challenging to build the right mech that you need for each mission. I don't know. That's just me guessing. Boss battles are also a huge focus, and that's another angle of the Souls franchise that sounds like it's going to creep in here. I mean, let's be honest, like Elden Ring, Souls, a lot of those games are really just kind of boss rush games. And so I do wonder if this game is going to end up being like that too, where you're just taking on one gigantic mech after another, which I think would be pretty flipping cool. And they've said the challenge is in assembling the right mech for each mission. It's being directed by Masaru Yamamura. He's also the guy who led Sekiro. So that's a good sign, which is one of my favorite From Software games as far as the Souls stuff is concerned. So I think it's looking pretty awesome. Do you think it's going to sell as well as like Elden Ring?
No, I don't think anything they make is going to sell as well as Elden Ring again.
Yeah.
But I think it'll do
I don't think
fine.
it has to. Yeah.
No, if you're expecting Elden Ring sales out of Armored Core, you're off in another world at this point.
It just doesn't work that way.
But I'm sure it'll be fine. Probably more people will discover it.
Did you see what
I just hope they make it clear to like the Souls fans that like this is not a Souls game. Like you're not going to find a big world to explore in a mech. This is a mission based, flight sim basically.
Yeah.
It's not what you'd be expecting if you were introduced to From with Dark Souls.
Yep. What do you think the general consensus was though among fans? Were they into it like online?
They seem to be, but I think there's a lot of misconception about what it might be, and so I think that's why From has been so forthcoming about.
They have been. They've been willing to share.
We are not Soulsborning the Armored Core games. This is an Armored Core game.
Okay. Next up, Wild Hearts, which is a Monster Hunter clone from EA and Omega.
I thought this was Monster Hunter for a second until I realized it looks too good to be Monster Hunter.
It's coming from EA and Omega Force. Omega Force usually does all the Dynasty Warriors games for Koei Tecmo. And somehow EA's managed to hire them.
Yeah, I don't know how that works.
I don't either. I don't know how that works. This game we've known about it for a few months now. You're not a big Monster Hunter guy.
I hate
Neither am I. I play one every 5 years and I'm good. I don't need to play anymore. I'm definitely not a fan of the genre.
There's nothing about it that shouldn't interest me. It's going to fight things and get their pieces and build new things out of the pieces. That's a thing I generally enjoy, but I just find Monster Hunter's combat to be clunky and slow and annoying, and I never have gotten the rhythm of it down. And I also don't like there's certainly World early on had a whole thing about teaching how to hunt stuff, and you were chasing down injured dinosaurs and killing them. There's just nothing pleasant about any of it to me. It doesn't do it for me. That's my big major super high selling popular series that I just do not get or participate in.
I enjoy playing it once every 5 years. And after that, I'm good. It's a certain thing, and it's once I get a taste of it and I enjoy it for 20 or 30 hours, that's my quota, and I'm ready to move on and wait for the next one 5 years later.
Yeah, for me, it's just I've just learned. It's I'm not gonna. I know I don't like these. They look cool. There's a bunch of when the Iceborne thing came out, I was it looks really neat. But I know I'm not gonna like it. I'm not gonna bother. I did like the Stories. Game Stories 2. Outside of the Monsty thing.
No, right. Ugh. Yeah, I like Monster Hunter Stories 2 as well. This comes out on February 17th, so not long to wait. And it was just announced not that long ago either.
It's bold.
So it's one of those games with a very short marketing cycle.
It's a bold release window.
It is. It's bold for EA to release a Monster Hunter clone. It's so out of their
also in the middle
zone.
Of that firestorm of releases. That's I wonder if this will get lost in that shuffle.
It will. We'll cover it on GameFace, but it probably will get lost in the shuffle. Next up, the game it seems like nobody cares about, Matt. Final Fantasy 16. This was one of the least watched trailers from all the Game Awards on YouTube. Also, by the way, on Sifted, was probably the least watched of all the big trailers from the Game Awards 22. Why do you think people are not interested in this?
I don't know.
It's really weird because
Maybe it doesn't look stupid enough.
I am more excited for this than I have been for the last 3 or 4 maybe 5 Final Fantasy games.
This looks more interesting than what they've been doing. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, it's by the Final Fantasy 14 team. Most specifically, some of the writers of the good expansions that everybody gushes about.
Yep.
So,
have you noticed that there's only one person in combat in every trailer so far?
Yeah.
There's never a party. You think that's the way it is, or do you think that they're holding that stuff?
I don't know.
It's shocking to me to see Final Fantasy and not have 5 comrades on the battlefield with you. It's more like Devil May Cry. Some of the combos and the juggles and the air stuff that they show in this is straight out of Devil May Cry.
I mean, they've been kind of edging that direction.
Final May Cry. I don't know.
Devil May Fantasize.
Yeah. It looks completely out of the comfort zone of Final Fantasy, which is why I'm excited for it. But it seems to be doing the opposite for everyone else. It also seems to be going back to normal fantasy and not this weird, like, alternate dimension that Final Fantasy has been living in for the last, like, decade.
Yeah, it doesn't have the weird Magitech element to it, which I
love that. Thank God it's gone.
Tired of that. Yeah.
I'm done. I'm good to go. Like, I don't want never to play another Final Fantasy like that. I want him to go back to this.
There's definitely shots of groups of them doing stuff, but I don't know if there's any.
None of the combat ever shows them fighting together.
There's two of them in there.
She was standing there.
They're standing there, but I don't know how much.
She never fights.
I can't imagine that with Final Fantasy Remake being what it was, that they would move away from a party system for this.
Yeah, you wouldn't think. So, but I don't know. I think this trailer looks awesome. I think this game looks awesome. I don't know why people aren't excited for this game. It's just floating under the radar. It's coming out.
I imagine a big chunk of the Final Fantasy fan base just wants Remake 2 at this point.
I guess.
Get on with it, which I understand. I would certainly rather play this.
Yeah. It's coming out on June 22nd.
June's getting to be a big deal too.
Yeah, absolutely. There'll be real E3 June this year as well. At least I hope so. It should be. Yeah, I think it looks great. Gets back to the more traditional fantasy roots. I don't know why people are just not into it, but I am. For the first time in a long time, I'm excited for a Final Fantasy game.
I remember the beginning of this year, and very delusional people seemed to think it was coming out this year.
Well, because they said it was. They lied.
They also said that we were going to see it last year, and we didn't.
Well, remember, they said it was done, and they were just, like, polishing the game, like, earlier this year. So people were just like, okay, well, then it should be coming. Nope. I'll say this, they're giving it enough time to polish the damn thing. It should be nice and polished by the time it finally comes out. But
I mean, at least they might learn something then. I mean, you want to talk about unpolished, let's talk about Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, which was basically broken at launch. You're right. Maybe they're also learning.
You play Final Fantasy 15, you are not playing the game that was released.
No, you're right.
At launch.
You're right. It's a completely different game.
They patched that so completely it's unrecognizable now.
Not quite Cyberpunk levels, but close.
No, but it's up there.
It is. It's in that same class for sure. But I don't know why y'all aren't excited for Final Fantasy 16, but Shane's sitting here saying he is, and he never says that about Final Fantasy ever. So maybe go back and take a look at it. I think the game looks hot. And I would rather play that than the Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 any day of the week.
Well, same, but I don't think we're
in the minority.
I would think so.
We are definitely in the minority on that one. So there you go. Those are all the big reveals from the Game Awards 2022. And then obviously at the end, Elden Ring wins Game of the Year. You're 100% okay with that, Matt?
Sure.
I don't have any major arguments against it. And I think the reason I feel that way mostly is because they did make some changes to the game to make it so that more people could enjoy it, which is something that they had refused to do with its franchises in the past. And it finally caved and was like, okay, let's see if we can make a game that more than just our 4 or 5 million hardcore fans will enjoy. They did it, and they did. Even I did. I enjoyed parts of playing Elden Ring. I'll never finish it, and I probably only got halfway through it, and I'll probably never go back and play it again. But I played way more of this than I ever have of a From Software game.
There were a lot of people disappointed that there was no DLC shown.
Yeah. I could get that.
I don't think there's going to be DLC
I don't either.
in this game.
I don't either. Yep.
I think it's enough as it is.
I'm halfway through it. I'll never finish the game, like ever, I don't think. So, and there's a lot of people like me that are in the same boat. Like, they enjoy the art and the setting and all that kind of stuff. And, I mean, if I had paid for the game, I wouldn't have regretted it. Like, I wouldn't feel like I hadn't got my money's worth or anything like that. So, I'm totally cool with it winning Game of the Year. There wasn't really a standout game. And as I said, Matt and I will get into our Game of the Year winners and all the different categories and genres and everything on Friday, right here at twitch.tv/SiftedGames at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. So there you go. According to the Game Awards, Elden Ring, Game of the Year for 2022. All right, it's time to give a letter grade for the Game Awards 22. What's your letter grade, Matt?
I'm going to go like a B-.
Sounds about right. Yeah. I wish I could remember what I gave the show last year.
Because I don't remember.
Because I definitely want to give it a higher score this year. So whatever I gave it, my grade is whatever I gave it last year plus like 2 fractions. So if I gave it a B- last year, I'd give it a B+ this year. So 2 steps up, because I feel like they improved a lot of things in this. I feel like they gave away more awards, which is something that we wanted. I feel like they cut the show down, which was something that we definitely wanted. But they kept all the good stuff in there that we've liked in prior years. So I think Jeff did a good job. I think the show could still be way shorter, which is why it's still not going to get an A from me. It's still way too long, in my opinion. And they could still chop out a lot of filler that's in the show. But I guess I feel in general like the show continues to slowly become better year after year. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, like I worked on the Spike Video Game Awards for like 7 years in a row, and I could not say that about the Spike VGAs. Like I could not say that year after year they gradually got better, because there were years where the executives would come into the meetings and just upend the tea table, and the show would be worse. And there's nothing Jeff and I could do about it. Now that Jeff is 100% in control, it should get better every year, and to me, it has gotten better every year. So,
well, it's certainly no VGX.
No. That's for sure. So congratulations to Jeff. I'm hoping he made a lot of money and profit off of the show. He works really hard on it every year, and I think ultimately he did a pretty good job of putting it all together. And so, yeah, I think that's 2 thumbs up from us for the Game Awards 22, but there's still room to improve for next year. All right.
You gave last year's a C+, as Vince.
Okay, so a C+, that gives me a B. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So up 2 steps. Yep, that's right. It was a B for me. Solid B. Thank you for digging that up, Vincent. I appreciate it. Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk next about the only game that Matt and I both played this week. And this was also tertiary to the Game Awards, because one of the big announcements
live at the during the Game Awards.
Yep, one of the big announcements at the Game Awards was that Square Enix's next gen, and it is PS5 only, action RPG Forspoken. There was a demo that launched live during the show, and as it turns out, it was a pretty beefy demo. I ended up squeezing a lot of time out of this demo. Now, you could just plow through it and get through it pretty quickly, but if you poked around the open world and didn't take on the final mission, you could squeeze a lot of time out of this. There was all kinds of objectives and things to do strewn around the open world in this demo. Now, you could just go from waypoint to waypoint, and in that case, you could finish the whole demo in 30 minutes-ish. But I went back, and it also saves, by the way. I don't know if you know this, but you can go and like load up a save from this demo and start in the open world again. And after going through all the main missions, I ended up playing another 40 minutes to an hour of this, just messing around and finding other missions out in the open world. It is an open world game. It has all the trappings of an open world game. There's like areas, there's things that you activate that reveal sections of the map. There's a lot of Assassin's Creed in this, I think. What are your kind of overarching opinions of this, Matt?
Well, I finished it, and that was enough. I did not find the open world very compelling. I don't think I fully understand all the mechanics of some of it.
The combat clunky. Yeah. Like, trying to figure it out. I don't know if the combat's clunky. Trying to figure out how it's supposed to work was a challenge for me.
Yeah, I think it's going to be better if you're onboarded by playing the full game from the beginning. Everything's sort of introduced in order. Because of this, you're sort of like, you got all the gear and the crafting stuff, which doesn't really make a lot of sense off the bat. The skill trees, there's 2 different schools of magic, and you're not sure which one is which or which you should focus on.
You have like 2 personas. You have like her.
You got her set of magic and a different set of magic.
And she's just some girl from Brooklyn. Yeah. And she talks like some girl from Brooklyn. And talk about swearing.
Yeah.
This game drops the F-bomb like every other word. Her voiceover while she's doing stuff, she just says fuck constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
I mean, so do I.
But it's odd. It's odd though. Like, this is a game made in Japan, but they've actually done a pretty good job of nailing the character as far as
right.
She's a girl from Brooklyn.
Like, you also have evidence here of like, hey, like, Square can make a game where everybody doesn't sound like a weirdo.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, it all feels very natural.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you got to do. It's like, you got to make everybody talk like people.
Yeah. The combat, going back to it, is a little weird. So you generally select your range of spells and then your specific spells, usually the shoulder buttons. So you hold both R1 and L1, and that lets you switch between her 2 personas. And the more mystical persona has fire magic, and then her, as the Brooklyn girl, has this like projectile style magic. And then within each of those magic classes, then you can hold, is it R2 or L2? R2, I think.
It's both, I think, because one...
Oh, R2 is the attack, so it can't be that.
R2 is the attack, and then you hold... L2 is a modifier, and then you can use one of the other 2 attacks that way. Because I was using the fire magic mostly, and so I had like one, I think square when I was holding L2 would cause her to do like a dash, like a powered dash, and then I think it was triangle or X, I can't remember, would cause like this giant firewall.
Yep. So there's
I mostly just used those and the fire spear attack that exploded when you hit somebody with it. That was a very effective one, even against people that were not vulnerable to it, I thought.
Yeah, so the reason I say I haven't really figured out the combat yet is because in this game, you have to hold these buttons, and it's like a wheel that pops up, and you're selecting from the wheel, but the game doesn't stop while you're doing it.
Yeah, it goes to slow-mo, basically.
It gives you a little bit of a reprieve while you bring it up, but enemies can still attack you. So it's not like this thing that you can hot swap on the fly. Like, I just never got comfortable with it, like swapping between all the abilities and the different spells that I had.
I think that would probably be, it would be easier to be comfortable with it if you'd played it from the beginning and sort of were adding abilities as you went, and so you'd already know where the old abilities were, and as opposed to like learning where 6 things are all at once.
I mean, this actually had a pretty good tutorial in it.
It did, but it didn't onboard you with like where everything was very properly.
That's true.
Like,
or how the flow was supposed to work. Like, it's like, hey, hold this button and these spells will come up. It's like, okay, great, but how do I do that in the heat of battle to make it feel smooth? Or maybe you just can't. Maybe that's something wrong with this game that they...
Yeah, I don't know. The combat, it felt either... There was an elements of it that felt either incomplete or like I was missing something.
I agree.
And I don't know. I can't tell which.
Me either.
Same with this like kind of traversal like magic parkour thing. Like it felt very like stop and go a way that didn't feel like how it was supposed to be, and I felt like I was missing something.
Now, just so you guys know, you hold circle and you'll sprint and then automatically clamber over and jump over objects. I struggled as well to figure out like what was going to be automated and what I needed to do myself. And like watching the trailers for this game and how they were traveling with it was way different than how I was traveling. Mm-hmm. Like I looked awkward and weird, and you watch the trailers and they're doing like flips and they're like using like a hook shot and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I look nothing like this when I'm playing the game. But I still really liked this game. It's really unlike anything I've ever played before. I mean, just the premise of it. Okay, here's this hipster from Brooklyn who's transported to this weird fantasy land, and they play on that like the whole time. Like, she's constantly cracking jokes like breaking the fourth wall. Like, what in the hell? What am I doing here? Like, who are these beings? Like, why do I have this weird bracelet that talks to me? And the banter between her and the sentient bracelet that she wears, I found a lot of that writing to be funny and clever. Mm-hmm. But it does come down to, at the end, the combat just doesn't feel great to me yet, Matt. And I don't know if like we said, I don't know if I just haven't found like the magic to it, or like...
I think it's partly, I think it's just not particularly... It's not particularly visceral combat. In terms of feedback, and also like let's not forget, this is the people that made Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah,
like the combat is about as good as it's going to get.
It probably is. Like I'm assuming, like it's crazy. So she has like, it's an RPG, but instead of leveling up like her sword or whatever, you level up like her fingernails.
Yeah,
like the painting on her fingernails affects like her abilities, and then she has is it cloaks and fingernails, like
poncho cloak things, and fingernails and a necklace. Are basically.
And you find new necklaces, and the necklaces are actually labeled in the open world in the map, so you can go and find them if you want to. And those necklaces give her brand new magic and different attacks and buffs and things like that.
Yeah, I didn't deal with too much of that just because you don't get to keep your progress.
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing too about this demo. Whatever you do in this does not carry over to the final game because it doesn't start at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, and they have said that like, you know, the waypoints and the quests you do in this are not indicative of the, you know, the 5 things they have you do in this as sort of the baseline quests. Those are not in the main game. Like,
oh really?
Yeah, they're like these.
Even the boss fight?
No, they basically said like these are all just we kind of came up with fairly generic examples of like a vertical slice. Like this is not how the game is going to flow in the final. And they said nothing's final, combat's not final. Like they're still tweaking.
It's not that
everything.
far away. This game is coming out.
No, but this demo is probably months and months old.
It seems like they built this demo just for the demo.
I would bet that whatever the build that this demo is stems from is probably from maybe February this year.
Probably, yeah. It could have even been like a build that they had built for like a trade show that they decided to not.
Yeah, it could be anything. We don't know yet how much this reflects the final game. I imagine it's not going to be like super different, but there might be like some quality of life shifts and stuff, and maybe some, this costs less than this now, or this is not, this does more damage than this, or this enemy is weak to this instead, that kind of thing.
Matt, this game has ray tracing.
Yeah, it does.
You could go and turn it on, and it is on in this footage, by the way. I could not tell the difference.
No, ray tracing is a subtle thing.
It is. I could not tell that I had turned it on after I turned it on. I was like, it looks the same. But you can see there she has the ability to like sync the areas around her. And
ray tracing a lot of times is more of a like you didn't notice but your brain did kind of thing. Like it's just there's an element of just looking right that it adds that you maybe don't notice. I did do this part. I don't remember.
So mission objectives, there was a bunch. Like if you start digging around, so there's a lot like this where you get to a location and there's a chest and you have to kill all the enemies in the area and then you can open the chest. There's other special missions that are just straight up horde modes where you're given like a set number of people that you have to defend, and the enemies pour in and they attack the people and you have to kill all the enemies before they kill X number of people. There was a boss fight. What else was there? There was a puzzle. Did you stumble across the puzzle?
What was the puzzle?
There's like this. It's kind of like a plate sliding puzzle. Like you come on this pedestal and you activate it, and there's like these two like silver plates over top of this image. You have to slide the plates around to get them to line up right with. I didn't solve it. I couldn't figure out how to solve it.
I'll be honest. This demo kind of rolled off me.
Oh really? Did you not enjoy it at all? I found it really refreshing.
I found it really underwhelming.
Yeah.
I just thought I didn't think it played very well. In terms of the combat, the combat just didn't have a bite to it that I wanted.
The combat does not feel good.
I didn't feel like I knew my spells well enough to like know what I wanted to do with most stuff. Like it just if I'm being completely honest, this almost made me think like, oh, maybe I don't want to buy this game.
Really?
Like I thought this was a very underwhelming demo.
Especially
as someone who's obviously I've been looking forward to this. This has been one of my games that I've been sort of like by definition was interested in, and I'll still play it, but like this did not impress me at all. I thought it was weird and empty and confusing, and the enemy designs are actually pretty cool when you look at them in like the database.
They're insane,
but like in game, they're just all blobs of black and gold. Like I can't tell the difference between any of them.
Yeah.
Like I was like, is that a zombie or who? And also in the end, who cares? Unless it can fly, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just going by whether I'm hitting them and whether it's as vulnerable or resistant, and it's just like it had that same feeling of Final Fantasy 15's open world where nothing mattered. Like,
I don't disagree with anything of what you just said. I've just reached a point where I've played so many flipping video games in my life that anything that feels different hits different for me.
That is kind of the thing that's saving grace is like, it's like, okay, I do want to see how she gets there and how she initially reacts to this world and what this world is like and what they do with her and what she wants to do and how she ends up in the situation. And like, there's more of a narrative interest to me there. I did like her in the bracelet bantering with each other. Some of that was funny.
Yeah, the writing is surprisingly good for a Japanese game. I was surprised.
And but like in general, like I'll also say that her cloaks, like poncho things, all look pretty cool, unlike Jedi Order.
That's a good point.
This is how you do ponchos right, folks.
Put that bullet point on the back of the box.
I like that aspect. I like,
does ponchos right, GameFace.
And I like that aspect. I like that those are cool, and the painting your nails is an interesting way to kind of give her some character in terms of what would be important to her.
Yep.
And what would kind of determine how she's dealing with the powers and her abilities. This is also a weird part. I'm just like, what do you want me to do? I guess hit it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It took me a second.
It kind of has a thing. Remember what I said about Fallen Order earlier, where it had that thing where everything felt a little paper thin. This feels like that to me.
Yeah.
It feels like the systems are about to unravel if I do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that's not a game killer by necessity. There's an element of that to the between mission stuff in Midnight Suns, and I love Midnight Suns, and part of that is because Midnight Suns has in fact unraveled on me a couple of times.
Yeah,
but I was really hoping this would be I don't know, a little more. I was hoping it would have a little more bite, a little more traction to it in how it played, and it doesn't. And like it
I agree. The gameplay to me was the thing I liked the least.
Yeah,
and I am a gameplay first guy, so that's a big concern for me. But I liked everything else.
And it's an interesting, this is what would be called an isekai, where someone gets zapped into another world and has to kind of deal with the consequences of that. But you don't see that from a Western perspective very often.
No.
And they clearly have a lot of Western input on this, and this, it's an American character getting, and that's an interesting take on that kind of
coming
well-worn
from this
genre.
studio.
I mean, it's a well-worn genre in manga and anime at this point. It's not really done much in Western stuff.
Land of the Lost.
Land of the Lost.
When we were growing up.
Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
Isn't isekai technically. Yep. But it's not really the focus.
Yeah,
of
it's
a
not
lot
a big
of
deal
games.
in America. It really isn't, like it is in Japan.
Yeah. So So you're right that it is a new take on something that we don't see all the time, especially in AAA games.
Yeah.
So because even in Japan, isekai stuff tends to be like visual novels, smaller scale things. Whereas this is this is about as big as it gets, really. I mean, it's a Final Fantasy team working with major, like Amy Hennig, and I think Gary Whitta was involved with some of this at one point. And, I mean,
the writing, which you can see,
for sure.
You can tell he worked on this game because his writing is great and the writing in this is good. So I'm intrigued by this. I agree. I don't disagree with anything you said, by the way. I agree with pretty much everything you said. It just didn't affect me or bother me as much as it seemed to bother you.
Yeah, I'm still intrigued, I guess is the right word, but because it is weird.
It is weird.
Certainly a different take on a lot of things.
Yeah. And
it's probably a testament to that, everything in this demo wasn't instantly figure outable.
Yeah,
it's not. It's like there was a bunch of stuff. I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I've seen a skill tree before, but I don't really remember seeing one that worked like this.
Yeah,
thing,
we didn't even go through all that stuff, but the skill tree in this is meaningful. I guess is the best way I could put it. Every single entry on the skill tree.
Yeah, it's a very interesting mix between kind of the Skyrim style of use the thing to level it up and do a quest to level it up.
Yep.
It's kind of both of them combined.
And here you're getting a look at it, actually.
Yeah, and then you have to use your the mana you've collected to decide what to upgrade. But first you have to kind of accomplish an objective with that spell to prove you've mastered it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I like it.
It's an interesting angle to it. And after a while, it took me a while to figure out how to even make progress, because I thought this spell was that spell, and I didn't know how to use it or what to do with it or what it meant when it said charge up and do this thing. But eventually you kind of piece it together. And I think that will be less of an issue if you're playing the game from the beginning, because you'll know your arsenal better as it's slowly introduced to you, as opposed to just you get probably 8 spells thrown at you at the already at this, so you're just like, okay,
right out of the gate.
I don't even know what I like.
It is a little overwhelming, this demo, for sure. Yeah.
So
Cinetuck is asking, did you experience the cringy dialogue some of the trailers showed? No, I mean, we were just talking about how we both liked the writing.
Yeah, I didn't find any. I mean, I didn't think.
I don't know that I found the trailers.
I didn't think the dialogue in the trailers was particularly cringy anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't either. So maybe just a difference of opinion.
I mean,
there.
I played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know what cringy dialogue sounds like.
that to me was cringe the whole way through. But everyone has their own tastes and their own things that they like or they don't like. Yeah. But the game's also very pretty. I mean, if you haven't been able to tell from the B-roll, it's a technically impressive and a very pretty game. And here I am just kind of gawking and just checking out the world. But
yeah, there are little pockets of it. I do think a lot of it's a little samey.
Yeah.
But there's little pockets of it. There's oh, that's really nice.
Yep.
But again, you're kind of maybe you're seeing what I mean. All the enemies just seem to be kind of.
You don't even see them half the time. They're just hanging out, they're just hiding in the grass, waiting to pop out.
The only ones that had real personality to me were the giant crocodiles.
Yeah.
And the boss you fight here, but even that is an adaptation, basically a feathery adaptation of one of the wolf things you already have fought.
The boss's animation is also terrible.
Yeah,
literally.
It feels like it was, like they said, it feels like it was just something they slapped in to give you a big boss fight.
Yeah,
and it's cool. I mean, you learn kind of how maybe a boss fight might work in this, and it is, there's a puzzle element to it in the sense of which spells to use to keep him off guard, and you can
turn him over.
Turn him over with enough damage from the thing he's weak to. And
now you're seeing what we were talking about with how you hold the shoulder buttons to access your different spells. You're seeing that right now. And again, you can see the whole world's going on while you're fiddling around with it.
You can toggle that though. You can set it to freeze. If you want.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
You can set it for the world to freeze while
you can make it just stop.
Oh,
time
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good to see.
Square learned that years ago, thankfully.
But I had fun playing this, and again, it was completely different and unique. And if you're someone like me who's been playing games a long time and you kind of gravitate towards new ideas or new concepts, I think this is one to keep an eye on, certainly.
Yeah, this is also the first point in the whole demo where I actually had to restore any health.
Oh, yeah. You can tap down and you restore health.
And it looks like this is my guess on this, but it looks like you are consuming one of the bracelets on the sentient bracelet every time you do that.
It seems like it, yeah.
Because I can't tell if that's really what's happening, but like
I couldn't figure out where the charges came from.
Yeah, that's cool because I think that's what those charges are. Because at one point when I did it, like the bracelet says something like "I've got a few more in me" or something like that. And I'm like, am I using up the bracelet as I do that? Like that
makes for some awkward conversations inside the game.
When you're down an enemy, you can do the hit triangle and do the...
Yeah, you learn that certain spells will topple enemies over and let you unload on them.
And you can, when you down an enemy, you can hit triangle and do a kind of a finisher.
Yeah, like a finishing move. Yeah. Yep. I had fun with this. I agree with most of your points, though, and your criticisms that you have. I pretty much have them, too. But again, it just feels like something different and unique, so I'm going to keep an open mind and give it a go.
Like, looking online, like, this demo doesn't seem to have done this game any favors, judging by reaction to it online.
Well, it seems like most people are not enjoying it. Like Mellow Pintor, I was excited to play this demo when it was released. In 45 minutes, this thing bumped me off the hype wagon. Well, it only lasts 45 minutes, so I don't know how you could have gotten any more out of it, honestly. Because you could really finish the demo in like 30 minutes if you really just plow through the mission objectives. But it sounds like most people are like, there's parts of it I like, there's other parts that I didn't like. Minority Game says Amy Hennig wrote this. Again, that explains a whole lot.
She worked on it. I don't know if she wrote all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think we know exactly who wrote what or how much of what on this yet.
Ashes in the Hourglass. If you want different, go play weird indie games. You're not going to get experimentation in AAA. That's exactly what we're getting with this. It's literally exactly what this is. Like... It's about a girl in Brooklyn who gets sent to this bizarre world.
I mean, it is. I mean, I can definitely see the pedigree of the combat in this kind of coming from the Final Fantasy 15 tradition
of suck.
Yeah, I mean, but you can see that like that's sort of like where it is stemming from. There's some Final Fantasy 15 here. There's some Kingdom Hearts here. There's there's a lot of that. But it is different. Like they're trying something here.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not just in setting and narrative, but in terms of like how she fights and what she does. I will say that like while I don't fully understand the uses of all the spells, they all are very dramatic and feel powerful. Like even if they don't seem to do anything half the time. Yeah. But like the effects for all of them are very. There's nothing that's like one of the. I've compared this to Infamous in the past because I think some of the shooting looks like it, where she holds her hand up and shoots the little rocks out. It reminds me of Infamous. I will say that so many of Infamous's powers had very underwhelming results. Yeah. And that did not feel like the case here. Everything feels big and bold and there.
Agreed. So they still have some time to cook in the oven, or bake in the oven, as it were. So we'll see what the end product looks like. But it hasn't turned me off enough that I'm not excited to check out the final product. I guess I'll put it that way. But at the same time, it also wasn't this thing where I was like, oh my God, I can't put this down. I can't wait till we get the final game.
This demo kind of made me feel like, okay, so now my expectations are readjusted so that when it comes out in January, I know how excited to be.
Yeah.
And it's not as much
as excited as I would hope.
Yeah, I'm going to take that down a couple pegs.
Yeah.
And it's probably maybe better. But again, not a great hype builder in this demo, I don't think.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to have. And again, part of that might just be throwing people in the deep end to some degree on this. It's a hard thing it's felt hard to pick it up and understand sort of the progression of how you're supposed to be introduced to all this.
It's going to sell horribly.
I would think that's probably the case.
I don't know how you market this and convince people to buy it.
I don't know. I mean, I would advertise the way they've been doing Callisto Protocol, where you run trailers in theaters and on TV and stuff, and focus on the narrative and how unusual the premise is.
Yeah,
that would be how.
That's what I would focus on for sure. I still don't know if it's going to be a sell to people.
I don't know. I really don't know.
I think it will.
It does kind of have that part of January to itself. So
that's true.
Maybe, but like.
Yeah.
It's going to be the first big game post-Christmas, really.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. Won't be long. We'll be talking about it again, so stay tuned. Next up, last topic for today's show. Things go fast. We're going to talk about a game that I have been playing the last couple days, that I have all these Q4 games on my hard drive. Every big game has come out from the last 3 months or whatever, or even just the last month and a half. I have all of them. They're all just sitting there waiting for me to just select the icon and start playing. And there's this other game from 2017 that I got a code sent to me for, and since I got it, I have not wanted to play anything else. And that is The Witcher 3 Complete Edition for next gen. I've been playing it on PlayStation 5, and I booted it up and I started playing, and I could not stop. I got hooked right back into The Witcher 3 again. It's
because it's one of the best games ever made.
It really is. It really is. And even all this time later, and look, you'll start seeing in the B-roll here, there are elements of
this game came out the last time Rocksteady made a game.
Well, look, there are moments in this game where you can tell it's from 2017. There's just little things that games have changed and tweaked over the last 5 or 6 years that this game doesn't do any.
In part because this game was influential to so many developers.
I mean, it shows you how far ahead of the curve it was when it came out, that it hasn't been lapped yet. And I just got sucked into this game and just started playing it again. And now I'm already like 12 hours into The Witcher 3 again, and I'm like, I can't do this again. I know you do it all the time. You go back and play.
I'm going to do it again. I've done this 3 times. I'm going to do it a 4th now. That's
our game of the year unanimously from 2017, The Witcher 3. Matt and I were congruent on that. And now that I'm playing it again on the PlayStation 5, we were 1,000% right. This game is still amazing after all this time. Playing it on PlayStation 5, well, you're looking at the B-roll. Like, it looks good, but you can tell it was made like a while ago still, I guess is the best way to put it.
There's only so much you can do without remaking it.
Without remaking the game, yeah. But it is amazing how all that stuff was there back in 2017. You just couldn't quite see it very well.
The combat's different now. They've everybody's ripping on the combat in the game. Combat in this game's fine.
It's fine. It's still not great.
It's not great, but honestly, you're not there for that.
Yeah.
Like the world and the characters and the story and all that stuff are way more compelling than the combat would ever be.
Well, that's what got me wrapped up.
But the combat is better now because they've taken a bunch of mods that the community made, including one guy who now works for them, and have incorporated that into the update. The combat is very, very tweaked now.
You want to know what, to me, separates this game from so many other open-world action RPGs, which really has become like just the video game now in 2022, which is why we had the discussion earlier about why people are trying to splinter off all these games and say they're not RPGs, because everything is an RPG now. But what this does differently from all the other ones is that you can go off the beaten path and ignore the main quest line and, one, not realize it, but 2, be totally fine with it because the stuff off the beaten path in this game is so effing good. The way every character in this game is written and voiced and it just immerses you into this believable world. You believe every character you run into. You believe every scenario that you're presented with. You believe every creature that you come into contact with. Everything feels so real because of how they flesh everything out with how characters are written. That's really what it comes down to. Like, you bump into these people. You'll just run into some dude. You'll go into a hut that you're not supposed to be in.
Everyone in the chat saying the combat is bleh, play it on a harder difficulty. That's what you don't understand. The combat, you move it up to Death March and you tell me that combat is bland. It is not. Once you have to use the alchemy and have to figure out what you need to coat the blade with and how to deal with each enemy because of you don't have the power to just knock them out with your normal sword. You have to use all your abilities. The combat's not blah. You're just playing it on normal.
Minority Game says Cyberpunk is better for me.
Okay.
Look, I love shooters, bro. You guys know I love shooters. I mean, I've been wrongfully called a Call of Duty fanboy for years and years. I love shooters. So you would think that I would agree with you. I do not. I think you are 1,000,000% wrong.
No, I don't understand how someone calls The Witcher 3 bland and not Cyberpunk.
Everything I
Cyberpunk
just
what
talked
you just said about the side content going off the beaten path, like that's Cyberpunk's problem.
Exactly.
There's none of that.
That's why it's a shade of this game in its best day. This game, I'm telling you, play it again. Go back and play it again and watch how quickly you get wound up into the characters and the plot and the subplots and the bit characters and the world. This game does everything better than Cyberpunk 2077 except combat. And even me, as a combat-first guy, the other stuff that this game does better is just overwhelming compared to games like Cyberpunk.
And the combat in Cyberpunk is not particularly good either.
The guns feel fine. Like, they don't feel bad. They don't feel great. They're not like Destiny good or Call of Duty good.
And this swords, I use a katana mostly in that game.
No.
It gets the job
First-person
done,
combat's always going to be... That's just the way it is.
I can kill 5 guys before the fucking slow-mo runs out. That game's boring most of the time.
I mean, I like Cyberpunk 20... I just said earlier in the show that I really liked it.
Yeah, I don't
But this
dislike
game is like one of the best games ever. I do not put Cyberpunk 2077 into that class.
You know, my big question is like... Because they're remaking the first one, that we know that there's a Rise of the White Wolf or whatever the hell. That's the thing that's happening.
Yep.
Once that's done, they're going to have the next gen version of this. They're going to have that, and then Witcher 2 is going to be the odd man out. It makes me wonder what they're going to do with Witcher 2 because Witcher 2 is a very odd duck.
No, by the way, I kept saying 2017, 2015. I had the dates mixed up. Yeah, it was like it was our first game of the year at Sifted.
Yeah. Witcher 2 is such a weird game compared to this and what the first one the remake will probably be. Because it's a smaller game, it's much more focused, it's very politically, like you are basically it's called Assassins of Kings, and you are basically deciding the fates of about 3 nations in the course of the game.
Yep.
And it's just interesting. I wonder if and what they will do with Witcher 2, because I have to imagine that you're going to want to sell this as the Geralt trilogy over the course of the next 2 or 3 generations, right?
Yeah.
So, like... I'm curious what Witcher 2 holds in the future because that seems like the next step now. In addition to whatever the 4th Witcher game is, which is probably going to be its own thing.
Yeah. Technically now, obviously, a lot of the big thing here is that this is running on PlayStation 5. This also has ray tracing you can turn on or off. Hard to see the difference for this as well.
If you want to do 30 frames a second.
Yep.
It's going to be hard. I'm not a frame rate person usually, but I played this in 60 on PC, and then I played it on Xbox One X. It was 60 on Xbox One X.
I'm surprised.
Even compatible that way. They did a patch for that. That was an actual I remember Microsoft that did that. I can't remember. But it would be hard to go back to 30 for this.
I played it on PS4, and I haven't played it since. I played it when it originally came out, and I finished the game and moved on and blah blah blah. Playing this now on PlayStation 5 and riding on the horse at full gallop and not having it turn into a slideshow is like a revelation. Running around, I can't even put into words how different this game feels playing it on PlayStation 5 versus PS4. It is like everything. The combat, just talking to everything is snappier. And I am playing with ray tracing turned on, so I'm going quality instead of performance. And it does, every once in a while, it does buckle here and there.
It happens. I mean,
but not very often.
No, there have been tests even on PC. I mean, there are tests on PC. Like, there's especially Novigrad is very CPU intensive. Especially apparently with what they're doing with the new stuff is more CPU. It used to be all GPU bound.
Yeah.
And this is more CPU. And apparently in Novigrad, even like super high end cards now, they can be bottlenecked by the CPU because that's so I'm not surprised that the consoles still are going to struggle a bit.
I mean, look, it's night and day.
It's fine.
Like it runs great 99.9% of the time. Like amazingly so.
But it's I've played this 3 times. I've played it on every platform except the Switch. I played it through completely on PC when it came out, and then PS4 Pro when that became available, and then Xbox One X when I got that and realized it ran at 60 on that. I loaded up, again, less like Skyrim. I loaded up to see what it looked like, and then 80 hours later, I had finished it.
Yeah.
So I will play it again here. Didn't go back to it for the Switch. Sorry.
Shocker.
Not going to do that.
Well, that's the antithesis of this version. It's like the frame rate bottoming out version versus this one. Again, don't forget.
And it does have a new quest.
Yep.
like a 30-40 minute quest that is based around the TV show.
And every quest matters in this game.
Yeah.
Like they're actually well written and thoughtful, and
you can turn on the Nilfgaardian armor style from the show if you hate yourself and your eyes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
You can toggle that so they have that weird like folded ribbed black armor from the show, which I think is awful looking. So I will not be doing that. But there's a bunch of camera options, like you can do more of like Resident Evil 4 style over the shoulder.
It's beautiful. Like it's crazy how beautiful this game was already, and now watching it in this fidelity, it just bumps everything up. Like
you can pick up ingredients and herbs without stopping.
Yep,
that's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
You used to open a window and you have to pick it. Now you can just he just does a little like hand motion and you just can grab it. As you walk by.
There's quality of life improvements in this.
Yeah, that's the other thing to know. I mean, this is also not part of the next gen update.
That's beautiful. Look at that.
Yeah, it's always been a beautiful game. This is just bringing it up to standard these days, which is good. I mean, keep it alive. I'm into it. And like what a deal, even for the $50 that the complete edition costs. Like.
Yeah, it's $50. It comes out tomorrow. Is that correct?
I mean, tomorrow's release date. The update. If you already have it, the update goes live in 30 minutes on
perfect timing
on PC and Xbox, and it goes up midnight local, whatever your local time midnight is on PS5.
Yeah. They sent me a code for PS5, so that's what I've been playing, and it runs great. It is pretty big though. The file size was like 45 gigs, I think it was.
80 is my limit now.
Yeah.
Also, that's the only one with the haptic feedback.
Yeah, and I will say that it's not great.
I certainly didn't expect that.
It's there. Like, you notice it every once in a while, but it's one of the worst implementations of it I've seen so far. It doesn't seem like they put a ton of work into it, which I don't blame them. This game is so huge. To go back and retrofit the whole thing with haptic feedback would be quite a project. So I understand why they didn't. But yeah, don't go into this thinking like it's going to change the game with the DualSense haptic feed. It doesn't. It's very, very subtle. In fact, I noticed more of the noise coming from the controller than the actual like resistance when pulling the triggers and things like that, which is a little odd. But I am hooked on this game again. I'm totally sucked into the world, and I've played this already. I've finished the game already. Now, I'll say this. I have not played the DLC. And that's something else we should mention.
Great.
You can start this at the DLC. They will prefab a character for you that's at the appropriate level, and they will just give you enough skill points to build the Geralt that you want.
Yeah,
so
that was both DLC had that when they launched. They're very willing to let you just jump into the new content.
And and you can do that here, or when you start, you can choose to play vanilla Witcher 3. You can choose to play Witcher 3 with the DLC, the 2 DLC packs built into it already, or you can choose to jump straight to either of the DLC packs.
Yeah, so they're very big on the options.
Yep.
Like even the new camera, you can set the new camera style for for combat, for exploration, for indoors, for being on the horse, not being on the horse. Like they added everything they could think of. They fixed a bunch of quests that had been broken forever. There's a couple of quests that had bugs where like you could make them uncompletable. And those are all fixed now, and they even said that your saves, if you have saves where those quests are broken, they should work now. It's I will gotta give CD Projekt Red that they
work on their stuff, man. They don't give up
every time.
I mean, look at what they've done with Cyberpunk,
and they always give it away for free. Like they've always done that with the enhanced editions of the Witcher games. It's like, here's a free update.
I will say this: like, after playing this, like, there are lots of elements of Cyberpunk that are a step back from this game. It's really hard to believe that Cyberpunk came so much later.
Yeah, but I think this lends itself to a lot of that more easily. The setting and the characters. Like, Cyberpunk is a tougher nut to crack on that. I think I give them credit on that in the sense that I say the side quests and the side stuff in Cyberpunk is not nearly as compelling as any of this. I don't really have a solution to that. Like, it's all the same stuff. Like, there's not as much stuff happening in the Cyberpunk world as there is here. Like, you go off the beaten path and you find these peasants and they got a griffin problem. And you can go to the farm and see that you investigate the farm, and the griffin will find the tracks. The griffin. Well, the griffin's mad because this other thing happened. And Cyberpunk doesn't.
It turns out his wife was murdered.
Right. Or the griffin's
That's
mad
because
the eggs were stolen by the werewolf, but the werewolf is his daughter. And it's like by the end of the side quest, you're like, where am I?
That's what happens in this game. And like, I wish I had played this again before playing Cyberpunk, because playing this now, it shows me why I was so excited for Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Because if it had all the stuff that this game has in a Cyberpunk world, it may have been the game of forever.
Yeah.
And it reminded me too
why everybody was so
I
excited.
watched the demo at E3 and how I got so wrapped up in it, because I had played this game. And I was like, man, they can't do any of that stuff worse than they did it in The Witcher 3. It's going to be at least as good as or better. And as it turns out, I was wrong.
And now maybe you understand why I was a little underwhelmed by Cyberpunk at the time.
Because you had played it 4 times. I get it now. Yep. So I'm just going to say, if you have not played The Witcher 3, go buy this. It's probably the best game released in 2022. I'm not even like being a jerk. I'm just being honest. Like, if you've not played this game, I guarantee you fire this up, and within 90 minutes, you'll be like, damn, Shane was right.
Yeah, I do like this better than anything that came out this year.
I mean,
that's true.
And it's
even
7
Elden
years
Ring and God of
old.
War. Yeah, they're not on par with this.
Yeah.
Not for me.
That's what I'm saying. So I was really impressed with this, and I'm gonna fight now, not finishing this game again, because I just totally got sucked into it all over again. And it really doesn't have that much to do with the visuals. They are better, and it runs way better than it used to, but it's not even about that. It's about all the intangible parts of video game development, and they just nailed it in this game. Like, I don't know, it's hard to put into words. Even watching this B-roll, I could see where someone would sit there watching this show and be like, Shane is just losing his damn mind. What the hell is he talking about? I'm telling you, play it. Play it. Buy it for $50, no one's going to regret it. If you even vaguely like RPGs, I guarantee if you buy this for $50, you will not regret it. I guarantee it. So, Witcher 3 Complete Edition, now available, starting tomorrow for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. I can't recommend it enough. There are a few rough edges here and there, but as Matt said, this game has gone through so many quality of life tweaks, and just cleaned up the code and various broken things in it. The code is clean now. It is absolutely worth your time in 2022. I highly, highly recommend it. Any last words for that?
No.
We already know that you love the game.
Yeah. No question there.
We've seen you gush over it before. People are now seeing me gush over it for the first time in 7 years, because the last time I did it was in 2015 when we talked about it. So it gets really like my highest recommendation. I can't say it enough. I know it comes out of nowhere. It's Q4, and you're like, oh, but Shane, all these new games come out. I'm telling you, this is better than all of them. Mm-hmm. It just is. And it's gigantic, and it has 2 huge DLC packs in there. Like, you get your money's worth and then some.
And
so
the DLC is really good.
Yeah.
Like, Blood and Wine is maybe a better story than the main game.
I'm really interested to see what they do with the remake of the first.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in there, too.
There is.
And
but it needs
that game
some
is just,
TLC.
even as someone who loves the series and loved that first game and was an advocate for it when it first came out and all that game is unplayable now.
Yeah.
It's just it's so very clear. You know, it's a modified version of the Neverwinter Nights 1 engine. Unrecognizably so. Like, you can't really call that the Aurora engine anymore, but it's like, it's just so hard to get through it now, even if you love it. It needs an update, and I'm very glad they're remaking it finally, because there's a lot of cool stuff in that game that needs to be, and it's also a continuation. It explains what happened between the books and these games.
Yep.
And you don't really need to have played 1 and 2 to play 3, I think, and especially now if you've watched the series. And matter of fact, if you've watched the Netflix show, you are going to understand who Ciri and Yennefer are way better than people who hadn't read the books would, but it did play 1 and 2.
It also changed this game for me, having watched the show. My appreciation for the characters is completely different now. And now seeing them in the light of the video game changes my perception of the game as well. Mm-hmm. So just all kinds of awesome stuff going on with this game. I highly recommend it, and I hope some of you guys will dive into it.
Yeah.
All right. It's time for Name That Game. But since this is the last normal episode of GameFace, because we're doing our Game of the Year awards on Friday, we're doing a double dip. We're doing 2 bouts of Name That Game on today's show. And I think I timed out the show okay. I think we're going to have enough time to do it and get in a little bit of Q&A at the end before we leave you guys for the holidays. So, 2 rounds of Name That Game. And I should bring up again that I still haven't heard from the person who won 2 weeks ago. So hit me up and I'll get you your free game. Okay, so name that game. There may be some new people in chat that don't know how it works. It's very simple. I show you screenshots from a game, and you try to guess what game it is. It's not complicated. A couple things, though, however. If you've won already this year, do not play. Don't guess. Don't do anything. Don't type anything into chat. None of it. 2, if you tie, you're trying to beat Matt. You're trying to guess the name of the game before Matt. And if he guesses the name of the game, and I look over, and the name of the game pops up in chat, you guys win all the ties. So that's pretty much how it works. The screenshots are obtuse at first. They become more obvious as they go. And again, there are 5. And I generally try to get you guys so you can't guess it until the 4th one. That's where I start to make it obvious. So anyway, another thing too, chat is on slow motion mode, meaning you can only give a guess once every 60 seconds. So don't just start spamming the chat with your guesses. You're not going to win. You can only put in one every 60 seconds. So make your guesses count. And with that, I think we're ready. Again, we have 2 episodes today. We're going to give away 2 free games. I forgot to mention that. If you win, you get a free game. A free video game. How can you hate that? All right. We are ready for the first image for the first round of Name That Game on GameFace episode 324. Here we go. Body Harvest, no. Now remember, if you've won, don't play, don't guess, don't do anything. Just sit back and chill and let everybody else have their fun. And by the way, in a couple weeks, everyone will be able to play again. Lost World, no. Dauntless, no. It Takes Two, no. Mass Effect 1, no. Control, no. Mario Odyssey, no. 2 guesses for Mass Effect, no. Ratchet and Clank, no. Lost Planet, no. That's a good guess, Norix. Ammo Clip 20, PSO2, no. That's Phantasy Star Online 2, no. Sniper Ghost Warrior Contracts 1, no. Super Mario Butts, no. Modern Warfare 2, no. Lestevad, you can't just guess Star Wars. You have to guess the specific game. And I should have mentioned that too. You can't just guess a franchise. You have to guess the actual entry in that franchise. Mirror's Edge, no. Ice Climbers, no. Horizon Zero Dawn, no. Okay, we're going to image 2. In 3, 2, 1. Battlefront 1, no. Good guess as well. God of War Ragnarok, no.
The Rogue Leader?
Rogue Leader, no. People aren't even guessing. Sneaky says it's easy, lads. I wish there was a way for people to, like, put in, like, a proxy guess that's hidden or something, and then when it's over, they can reveal that they were right or wrong. Fallout 3, no. Elden Ring, no. Star Wars Squadrons, no. Sea of Thieves, no. Death Stranding, no. AC Valhalla, no. Justin Horman, I just wanted to hear him say Super Mario Butts. Diablo 3, no. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, no. All right, we're going to image 3. We made it to the...
nothing in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2 that's that big.
All right, we're moving on to image 3. We made it to the 3rd image. That's good for me. Go.
I recognize that cylinder.
This one should give it away. You guys should be able to get it from this. A Plague Tale, no. Uncharted 2, no. Red Dead 2, no. You guys should be able to get it from this one. Look close, look hard. Rosencrantz, thank you for subscribing at Tier 1. Veritas just got it. Destiny 2. He got it. Congratulations, Veritas. Here's your round of applause. Good job, Veritas. This whole thing should have given it away. The lighting, the grass, the module in the top left. It should have given it away. Here's the last 2 images for Destiny 2. I'll make sure I'm not using one of the other ones here. Destiny 2 is a varied game.
Yeah.
It has, its environments are so different that it could look like 6 different games. But this image with the blue lighting is the look of Destiny 2. And then here's the final image that I would have given you guys to give it away. And there you can see, there's your little orbital. What are they called? What's it called again?
I don't remember.
I don't remember either. But there's your little floaty
where you
guy.
come back to life at the beginning of the game. Yeah.
Exactly. On the left there, that would have definitely given away. So Veritas, once again, a round of applause. Congratulations for winning Name That Game. Send us a DM here on Twitch. You can send me a DM on Twitter at Dimfire. You can send Sifted a DM on Twitter at Sifted Games. Or you can send me a message, a DM on Sifted. I am at Shane on Sifted. Okay. That's round 1. Congratulations again, Veritas. I love it when I see dedicated people who I know have been watching our streams all along win. And
Actually, Shora F said Destiny 2 first.
Oh, he did?
Right after Body Harvest.
Are you kidding
me? He was
me?
the first guess.
How did I miss that?
I don't know. It was right after Emperor Dread said Body Harvest.
I guess Veritas missed it too, or everybody did. Let me scroll up. And I'll put up the chat, actually, so you guys can see this. So you know we're not fibbing. Body Harvest. Yeah. Wow, Shora. I'm so sorry, Veritas. You're right. Shora won. I guess I never would have guessed that anybody would have got that from that first image. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Take a look at what he got that from.
Yeah. I mean, if you've stared at that long enough, you would recognize it, I guess.
Really? I mean, I thought like the guesses for Mario were the better guesses because it looks very low poly and like.
Nah, it's too realistic to be Mario. But like, I mean, I recognize that. There was part of me that was like, yeah, I know what that is, but I can't. It's like it's that tickle in your mind where you're like, I've seen it. I know.
I can't pull it out
1,000 times. I don't know why.
Sure, I'm so sorry, man. I don't know how I missed it. I guess I just never guessed in a million years that someone would get it from the first image, and you were the only one that did, because there were 30 or 40 guesses on that first image, and none of them were right, but his. And he got it immediately as soon as he saw that snow. It's really insane. This game blows my mind every week. So sure, you win. I'm sorry. You know what? You both win. I will send a free game to both you guys. So it's my fault, Veritas, that I messed up and I didn't see that Shore had won. So I'll send free games to both you guys. Congratulations to Shore for actually winning. But since I told Veritas and gave him the round of applause, once I do that, someone's won. So we'll give a game to both you guys. This is the last episode of GameFace, and it is the holidays, and we're in the giving spirit. So both of you guys send DMs, and we'll get you guys both a free game. Congratulations to the both of you. All right. And we have one more. We have another game to go here. And we'll see how this one goes. Again, Shora, awesome job, dude, that you got that from that snow. It's really insane. You guys are just too damn good. It's really impressive what you guys were able to do. Okay, here we go for round 2. Are you ready, Kyle? Mm-hmm. All right, let me make sure I'm getting the images right here. I think this one I think people may get on the first image. I didn't think the last one that they would, but then I always count you guys out, and you guys always blow me away. So here we go, the first image for the second round of Name That Game. Go!
That does look familiar, doesn't it?
Yep.
It's kind of like Metal Gear Solid 3.
Body Harvest, no. Yep, Case Money. The applause locks it in, man. Once I give the applause, that's it. You are a winner, no matter what. Metal Gear Solid 3, no. Halo 4, no. Tomb Raider, no. Turok Dinosaur Hunter, good guess, but no. Elder Scrolls Oblivion, no. Halo 2, no. Okay, I think we're ready for the second image. And here it is. Dark Forces 2, no. Metal Gear Solid 3, no. I think we've guessed all the Metal Gear games at this point. Armored Core, no. Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, no.
Silent Hill 2?
Silent Hill 2, no. Halo 3, no. Doom, no. Call of Duty 4, no. Wow. I really thought you guys would get this one fast. Silent Hill 2, no. Power Wash Butt Simulator 14, absolutely. Prince of Persia, no. Tile Cleaning Simulator, no. Counter-Strike, no. That's a good guess, too, though. All right. GoldenEye, no. All right, we're going to move on. Here's the next one.
Oh, Shenmue.
You got it. I knew it. I knew you were going to get it from that. And we have a winner. Matt has won. Holy crap. That's the second time you've ever won? Is that right?
Yeah, it's like 3 or 4, but the last time was like probably last year.
I'll say this, like, I didn't say I set this up so that you would win. I wanted to give you a good chance, and I knew as soon as the soccer ball was in there, I cropped it out at first, and I was like, if I put the soccer ball in there, I know Matt's going to get it, but I knew also that everyone else had 2 guesses before that to try to beat you. So I was like, fair enough. I'm like, maybe someone else will get the soccer ball as well. So congratulations, Matt. Another round of applause for you. It's been a long time since you won, brother. And it's good to see you finally win one. And now it's totally cool that 2 of you won the first game because Matt finally won one. That's awesome. Yep. From name that game to can Matt win this time? Are you guys surprised you didn't get Shenmue now? I'll show the rest of the images actually before we move on, so you guys can see what the last 2 were going to be. Here's image 4. That's just basically the storefronts. Boy, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that texture work.
99.
Yep. And here's the last one. And there's Ryu's head and his hair there in the bottom left.
Hey, mister, want to wrestle?
Where are the sailors? So anyway, I thought people would get that one really easily, but it just goes to show you just never know. Like there's really no way to tell whether people are going to get it or not. A lot of it just depends on who's...
A lot of it's just like that ground text. Like that's just how everything was done then.
Yeah.
You know, that late 90s, early 2000s. It's like, oh, just green, and then we'll just flop some fuzz on it.
We'll smear some Vaseline on it. Okay, we will now take some questions for Q&A from you guys. We have enough time to answer a bunch. And don't forget, this is probably the last Q&A we're doing for the year. So if you have questions about anything like related to next year or any of that stuff, now is the time to ask them. Let's bring you guys up on screen and see what you got. Mellow Pintor, Shenmue, you're a little too slow, bro. Mr. Starwalker also got Shenmue. Everyone was just behind you, I guess. Eth Demon, have you ever played a game you liked, but in good faith can't recommend to others? New Pokemon game, is that for me? Most fun Pokemon game in a decade, but runs too bad. Okay. Well, I'm really surprised we've run into someone that thinks that's the best Pokemon game in 10 years, but different strokes for different folks, I guess. To answer your question, a game you like but can't recommend to others.
The Souls games.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to recommend them to people.
I like them a lot, but I didn't know any. You know, normally if I really like a game, I'll get it for people for Christmas. I would not inflict that on pretty much anybody I knew.
Yeah.
Especially the ones with kids. You can't pause the game.
Yep. Tribes was that way. But in my opinion, still the best shooter I've ever played. I still can't convince people to play it because it's too complicated. You have to fly while you're shooting, and people just can't get over it. They just won't. I feel like they fight it. Because you can get good. Like, I got good enough in Tribes that I could shoot with the weapon that pretty much everyone uses, the spin fuser, which is just a frisbee that you fire. And I could be in air with a jetpack and someone else in air with a jetpack, and I could shoot them in midair. I could time them descending with my spin fuser and hit them. But other people I tried to turn onto that game, they hated it. They're like, I don't want to fly and shoot. The same reason a lot of people hated Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Everybody just wants boots on the ground. Everyone wants to be the same thing that they've been doing for years and years. It's very hard to convince people to break out of their comfort zone. So for me, it was Tribes. I have been an evangelistic person for Tribes for 20 years now, maybe. And I've struggled to get anyone to get into it the way that I have. I had one friend in Philadelphia who loved Tribes as much as I did, and everybody else was like, you're crazy, why do you play this game? So that's one for me. And it is challenging. Like, it does take a lot of practice to learn how to ski, how to fly, and how to time people. Like, I could hit people with a spin fuser from like half a mile away. I could see them skiing down a hill, and they're just a pixel. And I could shoot and time that spin fuser to hit them like a mile away. But you have to practice a lot, and people just weren't into it, and I understood it. So, yeah, in good faith, it was hard for me to recommend it to other people, but I absolutely loved it. El Guapo 3385, what's your hype level / expectations for The Last of Us HBO show? Mine are sky high.
Yeah, pretty high.
I am up there, man. Like, it's right up there with, like, the new Game of Thrones show. Like, I'm that excited for it. Like,
well, I would put it way above the Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, you didn't like Game of Thrones, but I did. So I'm just showing you on my scale where it is, and it's up there, man. Like, my big hope is that I can get my wife into it and she'll want to watch it going forward. That she'll get hooked into it like she did Game of Thrones and a couple other shows. She doesn't watch a lot of TV. So if we can find a show that we both like and we can watch together, that's a thing that we can do together.
She didn't like Andor?
No. She did not. I didn't get her to sit down and watch like the first couple episodes to get her into it. She would catch like patches of it as I was watching it.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It would hook her in a little bit, and she would ask me like, "What's that? Who's that?" Like, stuff like that, but she never sat down and watched episodes. I regret it now. I should have waited to watch the first episode when she was there, but I'm going to do that with The Last of Us, and I hope that she gets hooked, and it'll be another TV show that we can watch together, but I'm really excited for it. And you too, Matt? I think everything they've shown so far has looked great.
Pedro Pascal is a great choice.
Yep.
The fact that Troy is in the... Oh, I forgot.
He's in a bit part.
Yeah, they're both of them are. I forgot Ellie's voice actor's name.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're both endorsing it and on stage together with them and all it seems like they're doing it right.
Yep.
Because there've been a lot of adaptations that did not have that kind of respect for the source material or the people who made it, and that obviously Naughty Dog's involved. So
getting Neil involved in it, elbows deep, was smart. Absolutely. The Legacy. What immersive sim do you recommend to scratch the BioShock itch until Judas comes out? Could be a while. Although Shola, who's working on it, says maybe not as long as we think, which is encouraging. I'm not a fan of the arcane games like Prey and Dishonored. Well, then you're screwed.
Yeah, there's not much else unless you want to replay
there are no other great immersive sims.
You can play the Montreal Deus Ex games again, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
It's not much else out there.
That's really, the genre. That's really all that it is.
System Shock.
People aren't making them anymore. Yeah.
You're basically going to replaying other stuff.
Old games,
and remakes of stuff.
Yep. And then, obviously, when Judas comes out. But I don't know why you would be hyped to play Judas, but you don't want to play Arcane's. I don't know.
I agree with that completely. I don't like
really?
Arcane's games very much. I mean, I like Prey, okay, but for the most part, I find them annoying.
I mean, I'll say this: I like BioShock more than Arcane's games for sure.
But I really don't like the Arcane. I've really tried to play both Dishonored's and
Prey.
I mean, I like Prey. I didn't finish Prey, but I did.
Prey was my favorite.
Yeah, I definitely liked it the best of all of Arcane's attempts at that kind of game. And but yeah, I don't. They mostly leave me cold in a way that BioShock just doesn't.
Yeah,
Deus Ex didn't.
BioShock's more interesting for sure.
Yeah.
JM Rain, thank you for all the tier 1 subs, man, that you're giving out to everybody in the chat. That's flipping awesome, man. We appreciate it. Sneaky, hope you all have a good Christmas. Cheers for the content. Thank you guys, by the way. People who show up for the stream, you guys make the show better. That's just the truth. You fact check us in real time, so we don't have to come back in next week's episode and be like, okay, this is what we got wrong in last week's episode. It gets fixed right away, live on the show. You guys ask great questions. You guys, a lot of the times I'll look over in the chat and something you guys say will remind me of something that I needed to talk about regarding a specific game that I was going to forget. So you guys absolutely make this show way better. So thank you for being here every Tuesday to make our show better. I really, really appreciate it. You guys know I love you and appreciate you. I'll say it till my dying day. Ashes in the Hourglass. Considering the size of the install base, do you think GTA 6 will come out on PS4 and Xbox One? Good question. No. They're building it so that it will run on these No, it's not going to happen. No. It makes a lot of financial sense.
But by the time it happens, you'll be far.
Yeah, you may be worried about, is it going to come out on PS5 at that point?
Yeah, pretty much. Worry about the PS6 version, frankly.
Mr. Starwalker says, I think I said it 2 seconds after the image appears, but that's okay. Congrats, Matt. I mean, Matt literally said it instantly. I don't know how anybody could have beat him.
Yeah, all I could have done to cut my time down is not to have said
right
before I said
Shenmue. I don't know how anybody could have beat him. If he had paused after that image went up 5 seconds and then sure, but I think he beat you fair and square. But still, great job on your part to guess it as well. Vincent, why is that Bayonetta prequel generating no hype? Because it's not. It's like an indie game. Nobody cares. It's not Bayonetta. It's their B team or their D team at Platinum.
I don't think anybody really wanted to know the origin stories of...
Well, does anybody want an isometric action adventure set in the Bayonetta universe? It's all pastel. It's just a bad project. I have no idea why they even made it, honestly. I'm not so... I am kind of interested in the backstory of Bayonetta a little bit. It's just the way that they decided to present it in that game. Just weird. It feels like it was part of a deal that they had with Nintendo, that they had to barf out 2 games, and they're well, here's the second one. It took us 3 months to make it.
Or maybe just hey, maybe there's a way to leverage this franchise without spending 5 years building this complex action game.
Well, it's not going to work. I'll put it to you that way.
I forgot it was in there until that question got asked, frankly.
Minority Games. Any chance we get a new Power Rangers game that has worldwide appeal?
No.
Because it won't have worldwide appeal because no one cares about the Power Rangers.
Battle for
anymore.
I mean, kids do, but like, it's still a very strong brand among a certain age bracket. But like, Battle for the Grid is about as good as it's gonna get, I think.
Yeah, I was surprised that game was even released. Honestly,
that game did very well.
Yeah, it did. Yep.
There's also a pretty good card game, like a board game for it that Renegade Games makes. But in terms of video games, that's probably not so much.
Power Rangers just aren't as big as they were when we were kids. That's just the truth of it. There's some kids that still like it for sure. It's not gone or dead, but it's just
they're definitely still a big deal in terms of nostalgia and stuff. But there's just not, the audience isn't universally there, and it's more of a thing that people like to remember when it's brought up, more than a thing people immerse themselves in still. That's complete collection that they did a few years ago of like all the series, all the seasons, didn't actually sell that well. People just aren't willing to drop that kind of money on watching, pretty dumb shows from when they were kids all over again, that you can just get on YouTube if you just do a search. I think, there's not much there, really. I think a fighting game that includes all the different permutations, like that, the Grid game is, I think that's about as what it should be.
Yep. Congrim 1, thoughts on Microsoft offering Sony Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus? I think it's a panic move to close the deal and not lose $3 billion on a broken deal. I think everything that Microsoft is doing right now is a panic move. It's panicking, yes, because the deal should go through, and for whatever reason, it's really insane, Matt, that they're putting Microsoft through the ringer on this like this.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably go through in the end.
I don't think they're worried about the $3 billion. I think that they want Activision Blizzard, and they know that $3 billion is a drop in the bucket.
They want to get on with it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not even like a panic move about money. It's a panic move about, like, probably part of their ongoing strategy involves having Activision locked down and in the house.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen in time, they're going to have to re-strategize, and nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, $3 billion is not nothing, even to Microsoft,
No.
but that's not what's driving all this. They're just like, at this point, they're willing to say whatever they need to say to get the deal to go through, because they know that they're buying talented people, and like, even this old IP that PlayStation is just sadly and pathetically holding on to, like their lives depend. It really is a sad look what PlayStation is doing right now. It's kind of pathetic what PlayStation is doing right now. But Microsoft has the forethought to say, you know what? Even Call of Duty in 10 or 15 years won't be that big of a deal, because we will have worked with these talented people for a decade and a half, and who knows what IP we'll come up with that it will not have to appear anywhere else but our platforms. So it's pathetic watching Sony so desperately trying to hold on to this one element of this big deal that Microsoft is about to sign. And Microsoft is just like, oh, really? Whatever. Like, okay, you can have Call of Duty on your subscription service, and it still won't bother us. Like, this whole thing has just been crazy watching this go down. First of all, like, this deal should have went through, like, forever ago. Like, I still don't understand what these regulatory agencies are doing. It makes no sense whatsoever that this deal hasn't gone through. So if you're a PlayStation fan, thank your lucky stars that this is happening, because it never should have happened. You're getting way more than you should have got. Rosencrantz, what's your most anticipated game for 23? You have to wait till Friday for that. One of the awards we give out is our most anticipated game for 23. Jerry B. Matt, do you have any good movie recommendations other than Batman, RRR, and Everything Everywhere All at Once?
The Menu.
The Menu?
The Menu. Don't sleep on The Menu.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. Red Fox 1980.
Also, apparently the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio is very good, but I haven't watched it yet.
No. Is it good? It's supposed to be good.
I haven't heard a single negative thing about it.
Wow.
From anybody.
Okay. It looked interesting. Red Fox 1980. I wonder if that's for Red Fox, the actor.
What?
The Red Fox 1980.
Well, I think Red Fox was with two X's or two D's.
It was with two X's. But I just wonder if it's just an homage to
know.
To him.
I mean, there is such a thing as a red fox.
That's true. In fact, most foxes are red. Is the MGS remake a real thing? The news pops up every E3 Game Awards, and would it sell work in 2023 because it was a bunch of mini games? What would make it work? It would absolutely work. If they announced a remake of Metal Gear Solid on that we would have talked about it for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, but then you'd have, do you use the old voices?
Yeah.
We have to pay royalties for the voices. They would all come back up. And David Hayter would probably have some things to say because he got blackballed from 5.
Right.
you would stir up a lot of drama by trying to bring those games back.
I'm here for it.
And yeah, I mean you could, but again, Konami is probably not going to do that.
No, Konami, if it's going to happen, Konami will just license out the IP to PlayStation or some other developer or publisher, and they'll handle it. I think it's possible, and I think it would be gigantic. I think it would be the biggest thing that would have been announced at the Game Awards, for example, if they had announced it. So, is it a real thing? No. Could it be a real thing? Absolutely. But Konami won't make it. What else we got here? Cinetyke, Ellie from The Last of Us games equals Ashley Johnson. Not sure what that means.
Ashley Johnson's who plays Ellie, because I couldn't remember her name.
Oh, gotcha. Minority Games, thank you for the bits, man. By the way, if one of you guys, if I know a lot of times I'll get messages from people who are like, hey, like, I want to help you guys out around the holidays. Just give us like a gift or whatever. The best thing that you can do is go to sifted.net/donate. And again, Sifted is spelled SIFTD without the E. And it's just an interface there where you can plug in any amount of money that you want to donate to us and pay with a credit card. And it works in like 300 countries. It works all around the world. So if you want to like buy us a beer for the holidays or a cup of cocoa, or if you want to buy us a game or a meal or anything, just go to sifted.net/donate. And again, you can type in any dollar amount you want and pay with your credit card or PayPal, and we'd appreciate it very much. In fact, everyone who does that, I send people personal emails to thank them. Anyone who uses that donate portal, I will send you a personal email thanking you for doing that, because it means a lot. Let's see. Shenmue 2 or 1. I don't know what that means. Minority Games giving out more bits. Thank you, brother. I think that might be it for the questions. Vincent says in 10 to 15 years they won't have a platform. They probably won't have a console, but they'll still have a platform. You don't have to have
we've been saying that for about 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a long time. But you don't have to have a console to have a platform.
Yeah, they'll have an ecosystem one way or the other.
Yep. Cinetyke, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to all you guys. I realize some of you guys may not... thank you for the bits, Cinetyke. That's awesome. I realize some of you guys may not bother watching our Game of the Year Awards. Some of you guys only tune in for GameFace. But we will be streaming our Game of the Year Awards on Friday, like it's an episode of GameFace. Again, at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope you guys can all make it. We may do a Q&A at the end. One last Q&A before we go away for the holidays. Not 100% sure on that yet. But we'll see. But anyway, be there on Friday. I think it'll be a great show. Our Game of the Year Awards are always fun, I think, to do, and hopefully fun for you guys to watch as well. So that's it for GameFace for 2022. Another year in the books. We've been doing this podcast for a long time. 324 episodes. It's really insane. And each one of those are 3 hours long.
A lot of life.
That's so much content. It's really insane. And that's one thing we're going to be doing a little differently. Nobody asked. I really thought one of you guys might ask, hey, what's going on in 2023 for Sifted? I actually baited you guys into asking it. I was like, this is the last Q&A you might want to ask about next year.
The answer is going to be like, we don't know.
And maybe, but not a single person asked about it. So maybe at the end of the Game of the Year Awards, you guys will ask about it, and I'll give you an answer. But one of the things we're going to be doing is leveraging GameFace a lot more. It's like we're creating 3 hours of content a week, and we're just putting it out as this big chunk. And we need to do more with that content, and that's one of the things we'll be doing in 2023. So... let's see. If you're listening to this show anywhere on any of the podcast services, and it's on all of them, and you want to help us, head to patreon.com/sifted. Again, that's SIFTD without the E. You can pledge whatever you want per month there. We appreciate every single dollar. It means a lot to us. If you're broke and it's Christmas time, I get it. Everyone has to spend a lot more money right now for gifts or traveling in my case or whatever. I totally get it. If you want to help us without any money, you can do that with Twitch Prime. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, just head down below into the description. There are instructions down there. And as I say every week, my 70-plus-year-old mom can do it. So can you. So that's it for GameFace for 2022. Matt, thank you for everything, brother.
Sure.
Thanks for coming into your home, sharing your awesome cat Luna with us, who now has become a part of the show.
And it's having some kind of itch, apparently. It's going a little nuts right now.
And thanks to all you guys for all your support this year. Without you guys, this show doesn't happen. It's just that simple. You guys are the revenue that we generate to do this show. Without you, there is no show. So thank you guys from the very bottom of my heart. I appreciate everything you guys have done. Thank you to Ellis Cream for sponsoring us here in the last month and for the early part of January. If you are going to be drinking, or anyone in your family loves to drink during the holidays, go buy LS Cream. It is the perfect liqueur for the holidays. It's a lot like Bailey's Irish Cream. It mixes great with warm drinks.
But it's thicker.
It's a little thicker, but it's exactly what you want for the holidays. So go support a sifter. This is made by a sifter.
Yep.
His own liquor company. It's amazing what he has done.
I
so
bought
support
5
it.
bottles last week to bring to various parties.
Yeah, it's great
Down to
for the
3.
holiday season. You take this into a party and you open it up and make a drink with it. Let someone taste it. Everyone's going to want it. So support our crew. People in our circle who are doing amazing things. Support them if you can. If you drink at the holidays, why would you not want to support one of our sifters? So go get some LS Cream for the holidays. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you on Friday for the Game of the Year Awards. GameFace is up and out.